Good evening, everybody. This is the Willington Board of Education on Tuesday, May 14th, 2024. We are calling this meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. You are welcome to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance to begin our meeting. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're going to start with our most valuable community members and hear a little bit from our student representatives. Did they send in the report this time?
Yep, I have 2 recorded reports tonight.
Perfect.
And I am going to do my best to share them the way they were done. Share. Click. Slideshow. And we may get feedback for just a second.
Willington Student Board of Education Representatives presentation. On Monday, April 8th, a total solar eclipse crossed North America, passing over Mexico, the United States, and Canada. This happens when the moon passes between the sun and Earth, completely blocking the face of the sun. We were lucky enough to see it right at dismissal using special glasses. The sky will darken as if it were dawn or dusk. On Monday, during their unit on fairy tales in second grade, the question of why do materials make a difference was asked. Students learned that materials can be used for different purposes, and that the materials we choose to build our houses matter. Second graders presented their PBL projects to first graders on April 24th after extensive testing. For example, students wanted to ensure the house could withstand wind or the huffs and puffs of a big bad wolf.
On theme for April's Spirit Day was Bring Your Stuffy to School Day. It was voted on by kindergartners. Everyone loved bringing their favorite stuffed animal to school.
On Thursday, April 25th, third graders took a field trip to the Adventure Park stores. So many kids faced their fears and climbed to high platforms on the trees, ziplined and navigated trippy ropes courses in the sky. The Adventure Park staff could not stop talking about how well-behaved our third graders were. They listened, waited patiently, cheered each other on, and demonstrated high levels of integrity.
It's sore adults the next day.
On Friday, April 26th, fourth graders presented their project-based learning posters to third graders. All of the projects were directly tied to books read for our language arts curriculum. Some groups researched and wrote about the Civil War, the Titanic, Pearl Harbor, Loyalists versus Patriots, and women during World War II. SPAC testing started April 30th in third and fourth grade and continued May 7th and May 9th.
First graders went on a field trip to Mystic Aquarium May 1st to go along with their study of animals and habitats.
The New England Science and Sailing Foundation come back May 8th to work with second graders and third graders. Second graders designed their own model of sailboats out of Legos. They explored what forces allow a boat to float and stay upright, experimented with what materials and shapes work best for a sail, and practiced their engineering skills by following the engineering methods of design, build, test, and modify.
Third graders learned about different land surfaces and discovered which ones are more subject to the loss of soil by wind and water. They compared natural erosion of wind, rain, and glacier melting and experimented using soil, sandy, and rock surfaces. Fourth graders had an in-house presentation from the Child's Museum in West Hartford.
Ready? Preschool screening were on May 6th and May 7th, and kindergarten orientation was on May 13th. We're so excited to welcome new friends to Center School.
Center School's art show is Monday, May 20th. Author Grace Lynn will visit Center School on May 22nd for 3 separate grade level presentations. Grace Lynn is a Taiwanese-American children's writer and illustrator. On May 30th, the CT Science Center will do a presentation in the gym called The Science of Suds for PK through grade 4. We'll have fun exploring the colorful science of soap and water, find out the mysteries of bubbles, shapes, and what suds could do. Who knows what we'll put in a bubble next? Fourth graders will fly up to Hall School June 3rd. The band concert and music festival will be in June 6th.
Things we need to work on: being better listeners and raising hands instead of calling out.
Like the end of the school year right there.
Thank you.
You actually had Athena in that one because you haven't seen Athena here in person, so that was a nice way for her to make sure she was involved. So it's that one, and then this is the next one. I'm gonna do this first.
Our HMS Drama Club has been doing a great job putting together our Trip to the Moon play. Thanks to a great turnout from 5th and 6th graders, returning 7th and 8th graders, and a great stage crew. We're fully expecting a wonderful show on May 7th, 17th, and 18th. Please feel free to come.
On April 8th and 9th, Nature's Classroom visited HMS. The day was spent outside, and we learned useful outdoor skills while having a good time. Some activities we did: fire starting, pH water testing, endangered species shelter building, and much more. I personally enjoyed the nice weather and the fire starting most of all. Here are some pictures. Graders are going to Washington, D.C. on May 29th through June 1st. It is going to be an educational field trip, and we will be visiting Arlington National Cemetery among other sites and monuments. The softball and baseball teams are still in their seasons. Though not winning, we still have a few games left to change that because we play against much bigger towns.
2 weeks ago, our school had SBAC testing, and it went smoothly, with many teachers giving us rewards including snacks and movies the day after. Most students took their time and focused on the few days that they had to. A lot of the students actually looked forward to the testing sessions instead of their usual classes. These test results should be coming to you shortly.
This past Friday, our 7th and 8th grade band and chorus students, as well as jazz band, performed at the Great East Music Festival at the Mass Mutual Center. We are expecting good results like last year. After performing, the students went to Six Flags to celebrate and had an amazing time. We hope to continue this tradition and improve our work.
On May 17th, our 5th graders will be going to Plymouth Plantation for their yearly field trip. They will go here to learn about how life was different in the 1600s to now. They will explore the town, talk to the natives, and see how they lived. They will learn about the relationship with the natives and the pilgrims. The 8th graders will be going to High Meadow on June 7th. They will be able to climb, swim, and go to the included food court. They are raising money now to go and will have a great time.
One of the things we discussed to fix in the school is the bathroom stalls. There are big gaps in between the stalls and the walls. Another thing is the holes in the stalls in the bathroom by the band room. The locks are the ones that you have holes and you put your finger in to lock it. Some people look in the holes and gaps in between the stalls and wall. This causes people to not want to go to the bathroom and be uncomfortable to be in or use the bathroom. Thank you and have a great evening. Falcons out.
There you go.
Thank you very much. That was very thorough and exciting. We had all kinds of topics included there. We had sports, we had academics, we had music and arts. It was terrific. Okay, next up, we're going to hear from Miss Carrie Rainville with the PTA report. I think I saw it there. There we go. Hi.
Hello. Let's see. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So first of all, I love hearing from the student representatives. They always do such a great job. You know, learning what each school is doing is such a fantastic addition. So thank you, student representatives. Great job. As far as PTA, I'm going to start with last week's staff appreciation. It was such a wonderful way to show all staff members at CES and HMS our gratitude for everything they do for the students in our community. We came up with some really fun and creative ways to show our appreciation for them, such as on Monday, we did a create your own trail mix bar. Tuesday, we had an Olive Garden salad bar. Wednesday, we had a hydration station, which was the biggest hit as far as staff members go. They absolutely loved creating their own drinks. Thursday, each staff member received a thank you for helping us grow flower. And Friday, we had a baked goods and candy buffet. And I want to just say a huge thank you to all of those who volunteered their time baking and bringing in goods and candy on Friday. It was such a huge help to us. So thank you for that. Today, we had a Be Kind photo shoot at HMS, and I hear the kiddos had a fun time with that. Pictures have already been sent out to family members for that. For the CES yearbook, we are still missing a few 4th grade baby photos. So if there are any 4th grade parents on here, we are missing a few of those. We have sent out a message to the families for those pictures. And then also, if anyone would like to submit any buzzwords message for any CES student, we have added those flyers with information on the buzzwords into digital backpack, as well as sent a flyer home with each student. And now we're going to talk about a couple of upcoming events. On Saturday, May 25th, we have our annual 21st annual Willington 5K and silent auction. We're super excited about that. We've received lots of great donations from local and afar businesses. If there are any other local businesses interested in donating goods or services, please let us know. We are also looking for volunteers for day of registration table. I do have a sign up link in our PTA Facebook group, as well as that will be added to digital backpacks this week as well. We have, let's see, what else did I have about that? Also, we have registration links for race registration posted in our Facebook group for your convenience to sign up prior to the event day of. And if not, registration does open at 7:30 a.m. and we hope to see you guys all there. On Thursday, June 6th, we will have a concessions table set up at HMS for our annual Willington Music Festival from 6 to 7:30. We're looking for volunteers to help at the concessions table, as well as bringing in baked goods or individually wrapped snacks. We have a sign up link in our PTA group, and that will also be added to this week's digital backpack. If you're interested, let us know. Our email is membership.willingtonpta@gmail.com for any questions. And our last PTA meeting of the year will be Thursday, June 13th at 6 p.m. located at CES in the library. And thank you guys so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Gary, you guys set the bar really high for staff appreciation.
Awesome. That we are very lucky to have such a dedicated and talented, I would say, group. Thank you all very much. Okay, item 6 is the chair report, and this evening we're going to talk about the sorry, what did I read? Oh, I'm so sorry. Present to speak is next. My apologies.
They can unmute this. If you're present to speak, you can raise your hand using the icon. Or just unmute yourself and identify yourself.
Okay, we'll have another opportunity for present to speak at the end of the meeting, and you're welcome to participate then as well. Okay, item 6, chair reports. So, due to Connecticut general statutes, as well as our own policy 2131, we are required to complete an annual evaluation of our superintendent. In the past, the chair has emailed members a Google form to complete. There were sort of open-ended writing opportunities there. She then compiled all of the responses and summarized them, which the board then edited and agreed upon before finalizing with Mr. Stevens. I am working towards ensuring that our evaluation meets all state and district criteria. I'm also considering keeping the open-ended comment format and adding in a rating scale or at least examples of what is being asked, because I remember sometimes not really knowing what the topic was that I was supposed to be responding to. And it's also recommended that we evaluate ourselves as a group at some point, so we can look into that. And so I wanted to know what you all thought about the format, open-ended, a rating scale, combination of both. Do you just want to write a blurb and send it in? What is comfortable for you to give Phil some feedback and for us to document how the year is gone?
I think it would be good to have a rating scale and then allow for comments.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the combination of both idea.
Yeah, I agree.
Sounds good. We have designated categories that we would, yes, rate and respond to.
Yeah. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Very cool. Awesome. All right, so I will plan to email out that Google form within a week's time. It'll include a due date to get it back, and then we'll kind of pull it together. The next steps in the timeline for this activity, responsibility, is kind of based on what's decided tonight regarding agenda item 10B, where we're going to discuss the date of our next June meeting. So I will get back to you with more about that. Did you need to add anything, Mr. Stevens, to that?
I do not.
Okay. Did anybody have any questions about what they're doing? All right. Super.
Brandon, do you want to explain the process for our new members?
Go right ahead.
Once we have the report pulled together, then we will go into the executive session with Superintendent Stevens, correct? You'll have a chance to read it.
Usually you guys finalize first,
Okay,
and then you invite me in to share.
okay. Will you have had a chance to read it first when you come in with us?
Usually I've got a sense of what's there.
Okay, very, very good. And then we'll talk in executive session. And then that's pretty much it, right? Okay.
Great. Okay. Thanks for doing that. Okay, on to communications.
Nothing. I did send the communication out. I think everybody has it now about the budget hearing. I sent yours separate and somebody else's separate. Brianna, no, Tracy's separate. Thank you. I'm like, who was it? Because it went through the digital backpack. So all the other members got it because they're.
I had some communication that I forgot to forward to you because I'm really bad with my email, so I didn't know if I should bring that up of people asking me questions that they wanted me.
Yeah, just forward them to me.
Okay, do you
Yeah,
want me to mention the topics now, or does it have to come through as correspondence first? How does that work?
I think that, well, is it, can we put it in a topic area here?
One
Regarding-
was a parent asked me about, it was just kind of like a general question about information for our current preschool program and how, if possible, that could be expanded to allow more students, because they believe that everyone should have the opportunity
Mhm.
to be able to come to preschool instead of, a lottery or special needs. Forgive my naivety, that's not correct, but I think that's how that works.
yeah, we can respond to that.
And then, yeah, that was, I forgot to forward that, but she sent me a message, I'm like, send it to my email, and then I'll forward it, and then.
Yep. So,
Um,
we can definitely.
Another question was from a townsperson who was asking about, when we had those brownouts from Eversource,
Mhm.
are we allowed to ask for a reimbursement for that, or how that works? And I didn't
I don't know.
know what to say about that.
I don't know either.
All right, so those are my two things that people were asking me about, but I forgot to forward.
Could you still just? so
Yeah,
we have it?
I will.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, item 8 is the superintendent report, starting with WESS. and
Yes.
negotiation.
This is short tonight, so, both the teachers union, which is WEA, and the classified staff, WESS, and classified staff is the nurses, paras, secretaries, custodians, it's that big group there. They both have contracts that end in June of 25. So we are gonna be negotiating with both groups this summer. That group, your negotiating group is Ann, John, and Brianna. That when you do the teachers negotiation, you will also have statutorily, you invite a Board of Finance member. So I've already sent the communication off to the chair. And I believe it's gonna be Britt Rothhauser because that name came back to me already. So I'll let you know about that. I will be meeting with the board attorney regarding both contracts the first week of June, just to go through. Language, any updates that need to happen. She always looks at some of the more legal things like grievance procedures, things like that, even though we haven't had any. It's good to make sure your contracts are thorough and you have all those things for sure. I'll do those things with her. And then I've already received feedback from my admin team. I went through both contracts with them and just talked through where the issues fall, what works, what recommendations they have. And then, I also typically meet with the union leads. So I've already met with one, just to walk through like, hey, what do you have any thoughts on what your group will be looking for? Looking for a similar, process in the past and similar process in the past. Trying to remove some of the wild things that come out just to get down to money and insurance. Instead of putting 60 proposals forward, put forward what you're really looking for. And that, we would do the same thing as a board, and I'll make those recommendations to you. And then also trying to have it be as less contentious as possible. Because there's a process. If you just don't agree, you don't agree, and there's a process of how to move forward when you don't agree. That process is legal, and it's why we operate on the timeline. So, so far, conversation's been good. I have the second one next week. And just an FYI to you that we'll be looking those times. So those three folks, you're gonna wanna make sure you let Brendan know your vacation times, because those will be summer things. Okay?
Real quick, Phil.
Yeah.
Britt's an alternate on the Board of Finance. I don't know if that matters legally.
So as long as she's on there, I think that, well, it says or their appointee, and that's who they appointed, but I will confirm that for sure.
She also, I think, serves on the new fire department committee as a Board of Finance member, so.
I think she's doing the reason the name came so fast is because I think she agreed to do negotiations, but was put on, it was the town negotiations. And I don't know if he just forwarded her name like, hey, you're getting another one. But I'll confirm that instead of, just to make sure. You heard all those, amazing things coming up, Trip to the Moon show at Hall School 17 and 18. We are doing something new this year with insurance. We have been researching, providing, some alternatives for staff that they're voluntary, around vision and some other opportunities will be presented to staff. It doesn't cost you a dime, but it gives staff a better opportunity to access some things that they may want to access. So, we're doing that next week. You have the art show next week. We have the author visit next week. The 5K is a week from Saturday. The DC trip. We have the 4th grade fly up to Hall. The E.O. Smith graduation is on the same night as your board meeting, which is why it's on the agenda tonight to talk about later. And then the 4th grade promotion is on the last day of school. It's the 14th. It's at 9:15 a.m. You are all invited to that. If you're around and you can attend, it's not like a mandatory thing, and it is low key. It typically lasts about 45 minutes. And then the 8th grade promotion ceremony is at 6 p.m. that same night. Same thing, it's low key. If you want to let me know if you are interested in attending, let me know. And then the other on my report tonight, we didn't add staffing because we didn't have anything, we thought. And we do have a resignation from a teacher at Center School, Maddie Gallo. She teaches grade 4. She's leaving at the end of the school year. She's having a baby and waving goodbye. So good for her. We wish her luck. And so we'll talk more about that in a short period of time.
So can I just verify with you, the 4th grade promotion is on the 14th Friday?
Yes,
Thank you for that. My husband was gonna be out of town the day before, which.
I took it off the digital backpack, so as long as the digital backpack is correct,
Okay,
that is what it is.
thank you.
You're welcome.
What is that, what'd you say, the promotion is?
4th grade's going to 5th grade.
So it's like a graduation ceremony, but it's like they do a video of all the kids and the kids' names are called. It's meant to be low key, but it's a celebration for them together. We do, snacks afterwards and they hang out and take pictures.
So what time is that?
The one in the morning is 9:15. That is the 4th grade group. And then the evening one is 6 p.m. And we always have tissues because the video is usually very well.
The
I don't
6
know.
p.m. one is for.
8th grade.
8th grade, right?
Yeah.
So I know last year and the year prior, we did a report on the scores for the schools, and I was wondering if we were going to be able to do that this year.
We can't, it's just a matter of finding the time when. One of the challenges I'm finding is that Brenda's spending a lot of time trying to book you guys, and the number of conflicts is really hard, so we gotta figure out a method that she's been researching. Using an app type thing where you can say yes, no to multiple dates, as opposed to her just contacting and say, can you do this date, can you do this date? So we can set some committee meeting times, so we can set negotiations. We were trying to do another meeting that was just around the facility study, trying to book a time where could people be there it was very hard to do, and of course we all get it. So trying to do that, it's on the list of things. It'll have the new data in it, but yes, it will, hopefully we have the new data within a month.
Yep.
So it's on the list of things to do. Next month, we were planning on food services. But that can happen at any time. Yeah. Financial report. Okay.
Question.
Yeah.
The insurance that we offer for the staff, is that like a people or is it with that in an HSA?
It's an HSA with a high deductible. Okay. Cool. You're welcome. So I will tell you that this came out late today. So the business office has been cranking along with a lot of grant work and making sure all of the things, just any of the transfers, any of the grants have been applied, double checking things, making sure the changes from program to program have been set, we feel like we have a really, really good snapshot of where we're at right now. I know right now that there's $76,000 that's not in this, meaning it's coming into it. There's the only two pieces of grants that are not applied to this budget right now. There's the excess cost final payment, which will come at the end of this month. We expect it to be around $70,000. And then we have about a $5,000 grant that we received an additional bonus through IDEA. Those two things are not in this, so it will be added to the bottom line. It is as a positive, okay? So after all the transfers that were made, right now the bottom line shows it's at $68,000, okay? I'll tell you that I already know there's probably another 16 to 20,000 in special ed costs and bills coming in. They're not encumbered yet, but I know they're coming. So there's still more bills coming in, so it's not like there's $68,000 to spend yet. We took the money, so we transferred the art salary out, that was the balance out of one. We transferred out the staff support specialist and PE balances, again, those were surpluses. Those were all moved into program 3. So program 3 came up, so it's now only $127,000 in the hole versus where it was. If you remember, at some point it was 700,000. We got the after school program grant funds applied to transportation. So that was for the clubs, and for the half days. Minor changes in health services, curriculum, utilities, and operations, really minor adjustments there. The system-wide support, we transferred money from this program, the school choice extra, where the kids came back in. So there was extra money that was budgeted for school choice because those kids came back. That money was then transferred to offset special ed. And then I did not put the full amount of legal retainer towards that. If some of it was moved into special ed as well. And then program 10, we did that transfer. I think it was 80,000 into the fringe, or from fringe to program 3, special ed. There's still some money here. We still have some subs to go. So when you add the 70, and we're gonna be hovering, I think, around $100,000 back and forth, but there are still bills to pay, the end of the year septic things, like there's still things to be done. I guess the good news is it's not under zero. I mean, just from where we were, and then, you know, when we talked budget, and I don't know how to get this message out. There's some folks on this meeting tonight. I think it's really important after a failed referendum for people to understand what happened this year. Because this could have been this year, you could have gone back and said, we need help to fix this budget. We have frozen the budget, we have not spent, we have applied grants in years ahead. So there's a lot that's been done to get us where we are. I'm not quite sure people really understand that. If they watch our YouTube show here, they're gonna see it. They'll get it, but if they haven't, that's really hard for people to understand. So.
So can I ask a question?
Yeah.
This is kind of going back to other, but seeing it up here made me think of it. Where are we on the after school program?
So I have a director that I was supposed to interview last week, that wants the job. We were given, because they gave everyone the grants and they announced them so late, the funding, we basically had like from February to June to spend the funding. And so what we were allowed to do, everyone that got the grant was given flexibility to rewrite their grant, especially if they didn't get their full ask. We didn't get our full ask. So we were able to rewrite the grant to offset like the things that we did. So our club transportation, any clubs that were funded, the stipends that came out of your BOE budget, the half days, any of those things, we were able to fund some tuition for April vacation, because it's, again, they see it as after school. So we're gonna spend our full $89,000 by June, or thereabouts, and it's like spending a lot. We bought board games, things like that, equipment for next year. Once the director is hired, it then will kick off and that person will start to do all the announcements about next year, but we're gonna have an after-school program next year. As long as we have a director, and I believe it's moving in a very positive direction.
So I have two questions that are sort of finance related. Okay, number one, when do we get the reimbursement from the state to cover special ed in the outplacements? Have we already received
That's the excess cost. So we received,
the 70K?
we received a big no. That's the second payment. The first payment is the larger one. We've already gotten that in. And the second payment is the final. Because what, they don't wanna give you it all upfront in case things change. They give you the bulk of it. So which that first payment is already reflected in this budget. It's the second payment that's not reflected, and that always comes in May.
Okay, now next year, you've already factored that into the budget, so that.
We do it as a line at the bottom based upon what we know when we write the budget and the cost per child for that exceeds that about $90,000 number. We calculate how much and then what's eligible. And then we calculate the number that we can offset the budget with excess cost. I'm very glad. If you saw the budget and Tammy Nuccio was recently speaking on this, the budget went through the state, from what I understand. They did not fully fund excess cost. So it was supposed to be, we're supposed to get 91% back after that $90,000. I was not confident in what happened this year. So we budgeted what we've been getting around that 70 percentile. And that's what we budgeted for next year, that we would get 70%, not 91.
So we might.
And I'm very glad we did that because I don't think they fully funded it, and I think it's gonna be the same issue next year. Which, how they get away with that, I don't know.
That's insane.
It is.
One other question related to finance and next year's budget. Is it possible to go to the Board of Finance next year, as you just mentioned? We could have possibly done this year, but you found alternate ways to cover those funds. I'm just wondering, are we gonna talk about that more later?
We'll talk about, the
Okay,
next
I'll
year,
hold
but
that-
yeah.
that later then.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Since this is a question for a budget discussion, but since it just got brought up here. Have the attorneys who represent schools like ours ever thought about bringing suit against the state for the missing money that? I know, cause I know we're not the only school affected by this.
Every district is affected by it, some are millions. I'm really surprised there's no suit from like a Shipman or Goodwin. Because who's one of the biggest law firms in the state for education. Maybe people don't think they'll win, I don't know, if in the grand scheme of things, we're out, we'll call it $100,000, I don't remember the exact number. In excess costs, that's about what we're out, there are towns that are out millions. I don't know how, that to me would be worth a lawsuit.
Right.
To say, what are you gonna do? I mean, but it's, I don't understand the why. And I troll Facebook just for feedback for things. And people were saying, you should talk to our politicians. I've already done that. I've already connected with Tammy Nuccio. I've already talked to Jeff Gordon. They are very aware of this stuff. I've already talked to the head of the ed committee. And so it comes down to a vote, and when they don't vote for those things, it's baffling to me.
How about Kay, then the superintendent?
They're all on board. They all, CAPS, my group, CAPE, they're all advocating for fully funding special education. And let's be honest, fully funding is 100%. They're calling fully funding what the law says, for us, 91%. Or fully funding whatever a district, based upon your ability to pay, you get your percentage. That's what they're calling fully funded. But again, the point of this budget report here is that, again, we survive another month, we're in the plus. And, if there's a dime left over, you should ask for it, you're not lapsing account, honestly, that's what you should do. So, but we'll continue to manage this. Keep moving forward.
Can I just ask a question? I really was arguing with myself the entire time about whether I'm gonna even bring this up or not, but. Is there any room that we have left to fix the bathroom issue that the kids brought up in their video?
So they've already actually fixed some, and
Okay.
yes, so I wrote that down because I'm curious, I actually had a problem with that. And so they've already fixed several at Hall School, the kids put it in their climate surveys from last year. And I walked all the bathrooms because I wanted to see what they were talking about. In the upper hallway. No other way to show you than pulling this up, this is the sink wall, and the stalls are like this. And it actually overlaps a little bit, and so, they installed metal mounts to block that. I don't know if what they're talking about is the gap in the door. Which is, the lock is fully understandable, that's easy fix, Steve knows how to do that, he can do that. The gap between the door. I don't know how to change that, when the partitions are where they are. It is what it is, they might be able to install another metal piece, but it can't overlap where you're gonna rub against, so, but we can look at it. Yeah, it was a very inexpensive fix. For. A lot of. Appreciation.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And I understand that 100%, yeah, I will look at that.
Thanks for hearing out our students and being there. Okay, item 10, new business. First, we need to approve some meeting minutes from April 9th. We're gonna need a motion for that first, please. I move to approve the minutes from April 9th.
Here.
2024.
Second.
Okay, did anybody have any comments or any edits they wanted to make? Or discussion? Okay, those in favor of approving the minutes from April 9th, 2024, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Great, all right, put those into our.
And I owe 7 minutes, Brenda reminded me yesterday that we had a meeting before that. I totally forgot about it. So we have to do the Q&A in that minutes,
All right.
I owe that.
Great. Okay. New business, item B, the June Board of Education meeting is scheduled for June 11th, 2024. Conflicts with the E.O. Smith graduation. Does it happen soon?
Good last year.
We have some Region 19 Board of Education members on this board, and 3 of us have graduates this year.
Well,
So, I mean, unless we have another one person, we totally can't. So we need to either look for an alternative date there or completely suspend that meeting and then just kind of make meetings as we need them, special meetings.
You would figure out if you do a special meeting,
I think we'll probably need to get together somehow for your evaluation.
which could be July.
It's okay.
If we agree upon it, you're doing the evaluation, then that would be fine by me.
Okay, so that would give us through June to communicate back and forth, get it straightened out.
Fine by me.
Then just do that stuff in July. Okay. Did anybody wanna, not fight, but I need to try to reschedule it?
Yeah, because we just had a failed budget, and I think that canceling the June meeting in advance is not a good idea, because that people may wanna be here for it. My suggestion is to move it to another day.
I already know I won't be here in July, so I would, I'll be in Washington. I might be able to zoom in, but not in person.
So, this is kind of part of the budget discussion piece. You may need to have another meeting depending on what happens, and I say may. Because the number's set and if the Board of Finance, if you make a recommendation to the Board of Finance and they take it and it's approved, you already know what it's gonna be, okay? If they take a number and you don't know what it is, you do have to come back and make a decision about where those dollars go, so that Donna can create that number, into our spreadsheet to create the budget for the following year. I believe that there's gonna be there will be a second referendum. It will be probably sometime in June. Looking at timeline wise, in middle of June is probably the fastest. So what you may wanna do is cancel this meeting because nobody's gonna be here. with the expectation that something will be rescheduled. And if not, if you don't need it, you can just say it's not gonna be rescheduled. If you do need it, you could pick a special meeting date anytime you want. Cause it would be a special meeting because it's no longer on your regular calendar, if that makes sense.
Right. So
Does that make sense?
if we looked at the 18th as a possibility, would the rest?
You might need it, you might need it next week.
Oh, okay.
That's my point, that we don't know when. Well, when the information is out there and depending on what happens on Thursday night. You may need to meet next week to go, hey, we gotta reorganize and do this and figure that out so that you have an approval so that people know what is going to be cut if something is cut. Does that make sense?
I just wanna make sure I'm understanding. So if the board finance gives us a number, is that what you're saying? Gives us a number that we have to get to?
They're not gonna give you a number to get to, they can just say, and I'm gonna give you an example because it's a stupid example. They're gonna cut you $1. Okay? You have to figure out where that $1 is coming from. And you have to vote on it. So whatever number they give you. Is where you figure it out. If you determine something tonight. And they accept it, and that's what they send to referendum, you've already decided where that's coming from, and that's easy. But if you decide something tonight and you make a recommendation, and then they do something else. You have to come back and figure out where those lines are gonna come from.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
It wouldn't be a long meeting, cause I'm just gonna give you a recommendation and say, this is where. You know, I would suggest you do. It would be a long meeting if it's $500,000.
Yeah, so that was gonna be my question too, just because. To clarify the process, so tonight.
We should skip this conversation though until we get to it, cause you're just talking about canceling June.
Well,
Can we take?
You're gonna get to the budget in a later item, and that's really what we're talking about right now.
So what I heard is we can't be here on June 11th. Do we need to vote to cancel that meeting? Or we can just?
You can just do it, I mean, I won't be here either, so.
Right, exactly, okay.
I wouldn't do it.
So the choices are to set a new meeting for, I would recommend the 18th or 25th, just because those are Tuesdays and that's what we're typically doing. It'll make it easier for the townspeople to remember. Or we already know we're going to have to kind of play this by ear, especially based on what happens at Board of Finance on Thursday. And know that we're probably meeting sooner, and then would be like canceling that next one. So I'm fine with not having a set meeting, and kind of playing it as it goes, even if that means we get together every night next week. If that's what we need to do, that's what I'm good with doing. I would love your input, so because we need.
And I can communicate that out easy, we can just make sure, I can just say, send a message, Brenda can send you a text and say. We do need a meeting, what's your availability this day, we can check it, and then if it gets beyond budget and you do want an additional meeting for. June business, which you don't have a lot of June business, I'm gonna be really blunt with you, you don't have a lot of June business. Unless you wanna do some special things. And special things like, you could put off my evaluation until July. You could put off the food services report, or presentation until July. You could do those things, there's nothing, policy, there's a couple policy things that could be put off until July. As long as those things are in place, August, you know, this 28th or whatever, the first day of school, it would be fine. So as long as people are okay with that. I can just communicate that out.
I mean, I think that makes the most sense, so that we can be as flexible as we need to be. As far as when we need to meet. Doesn't make sense to schedule a meeting which we may not need, though we may not need one sooner.
Right,
Yeah.
she's gonna get the first comment, I think, on the budget. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to make sure I understood the process so that I could make an educated decision on if I wanted a
The
meeting.
June meeting, gotcha,
Yeah,
sorry.
that's okay, but from hearing you guys talk about it, I understand. What we're doing, and I think I agree that it makes sense to wait and see after a budget discussion tonight and after the meeting on Thursday to kind of try to. Play it by ear instead of pushing one out further, and then like he said, if we schedule a meeting for. June 18th or the following Tuesday, but the referendum comes before that, then it's kind of like a moot meeting. Whatever, waste of a meeting or
Right.
waste of a scheduling. I don't know how to word it, but you know what I'm trying to say.
We can say hold the date and just give it to you. I'll let Brendan manage that, as long as you know that you're not gonna meet that night and that you might need to be earlier based upon the budget.
Are you okay with it? That's it.
No, I'm very rigid, I'm never in favor. It's on region two, they get mad at me, but.
I also know that I won't be here on the 25th, so I'll be in Florida. But anyway, so that's one person.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, my opinion is that whole this, it doesn't matter, but.
okay, well, then I guess we'll see how things lie after the Board of Finance meets on Thursday. And then communicate about, what needs to be done and how soon we do that.
Yep.
We need 4 of us for a quorum, so hopefully that can work, whether in person or, on Zoom, and I will certainly make myself available, and be there and make things happen, which is great. I'll do my best. It's kind of a big, like, what's gonna happen now.
Yeah.
type of thing. And that leads us right into 2024-2025 budget discussion, which we kind of already dipped our toes into. So Samantha, did you wanna have your turn now, or do you feel like you satisfied your question?
No, like I said, my question was just understanding the process so I could make an educated decision on if I wanted to schedule that meeting or not, or with her special
Right,
meeting
like
as needed.
what happens now?
Yeah.
Okay. So, our town held our referendum. Our portion of the vote, did not pass by 42 votes. Our town had a 16.5% turnout that day, which, I think says a lot. The way that I see things now, I am not at this time interested in discussing cuts personally, because everything that we put on that budget is needs-based, and I certainly stand behind what we presented. When the Board of Finance, has their meeting, and if they give us further direction, we'll of course consider options, as difficult as that will be for us, we all know. I think at this point, we can and should, update the Board of Finance as well as the townspeople as to our needs, because, things may have changed as far as our expectations for next school year. And figure out how to better engage the community, encourage their support and active participation as well. So thank you, Mr. Stevens, for sending out that letter to the parents. I think that's important. I love that you added the statistics about, the voters that were able to come out that day, because I think that says a lot also. And I just was wondering if we had any ideas or further ways of communicating, and what else, you all would recommend we do more of or better as far as community engagement and participation.
Bill, do you have numbers in front of you of what the actual percentage that was mandated for special ed was versus what we asked? So the people online could hear it. Wasn't it like,
The difference in percentages.
oh, yeah,
It's like 7.7
that's what I had.
compared to, they're barely bumped up with the other things that were in there.
Yeah, it wasn't like we asked for a very small amount, but the other parts were mandated by law to.
Yeah, the increase in special ed was $470,000 or something alone.
I don't think that information got out, sorry.
No, that's okay. I'm sorry I interrupted you,
Mhm.
but I just kind of to piggyback on your point, I feel like I think that did get out in the forums that the budget discussion happened. Like, I don't know how else to get the information to the people who are not paying attention. And because it's very easy to say, oh my God, the schools want blah, 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 and then it's an easy no. If you're not paying attention and not understanding that that is a mandated expense and that we don't have a choice in that matter. And that's what's frustrating as far as, moving things forward, because that's not going in. It's not like we can cut that. So, I don't, while I talked a lot, I don't really have an answer. It's just very frustrating.
I have a comment or a question. While I do think it's very important for us to be united and stand behind our budget that we asked for, and even if we. cuts, it may only be 1%. I'm worried that if we don't look like we're making an effort, they're gonna tell us that we have to cut this and it's gonna come down to cutting people. Versus us. And I know that there's not much fat to trim. But that's kind of my thought process, that I'm a little bit hesitant about being like, nope, this is what we're doing, this is what we asked for, we're standing by it and being rigid. And then being like, well, we want you to cut this much for, and I would hope that it wouldn't be that way, but I'm not sure what the vibes are this year with. You know what I mean, people. You see certain people saying different things and a 0% increase is not realistic, you know what I mean? And that's not even a fair thing to say. I don't, you know, it's not. Whatever, but like, you understand where I'm coming from, and like, maybe we should try to cut a little bit, so it looks like we're making an effort. To appease a certain percentage, like instead of being like, nope, like, you're not even trying, like, here, cut. 100 grand or whatever, I don't know what they're gonna say. But just for the sake of.
Can I just
Trying, I don't know.
say one quick thing? I think that, in my opinion, that work has already been done. I feel like when we did the budget, we really went through with a fine tooth comb and decided what we could put forward as something that we really stand behind. And it's not stand behind because we want the kids of Willington to have the best things in the wide world. It's the things that we stand behind because this is the bare minimum that our kids need to be successful in school. And I feel like our facilities director is an easy target. In our budget, that number is an easy target. In my opinion, if that is something that is on the table for discussion, there also needs to be a discussion about the facilities work that is going to be done. Because you can't have one without the other, because that's what we're saying. And that's my fear.
I do have dollars to cut, and I'll share what it is, and it's not. A cut as much as it is attrition. So I shared with you tonight that we had a teacher resign at the end of the year. That is now 2 teachers, and with the second teacher resigning. Our kindergarten numbers that we put in for sections. Again, we talk about budgets changing and process things happening and more data coming in through the budget process, but you've already set a number, right? So we estimated 3 sections of kindergarten for incoming kids. Well, we just had kindergarten orientation and we have 2 sections.
How many in each?
12,
That's pretty well,
which you can't be 1. It's not 1, and it's for sure not 3. So because of that. With the second person resigning, and the first person was Rebecca Pilger, remember, and she's going to be the staff support specialist at Hall. With the second person resigning and the numbers being low in kindergarten. You can just not fill that position and nobody loses their job. This person's resigned because they're gonna have a baby and they're not coming back. So it's not like you're taking a position, and I'm going to tell you flat out that if I had that information in. January, it's exactly what I would have told you. I need 2 sections. So your total number of sections was 13 instead of 14, and I would have removed those dollars. So the savings off of that position is 58,000, put your glasses on, 58,555. From a transparency perspective, 100% you should be giving that. Because it's a change in data. It is not a cut to something that you need. It's a needs-based budget that position is no longer needed. Even if you add 8 more kindergarten students, you still have 2 sections. Where in prior years where I would, if you remember, those of you that have been on the board for a while, I was reporting out like, oh, we got another 2 kids, got another kid. We need another section of kindergarten, and we had to hire a teacher. In this situation, we only need 2 kindergarten teachers, and that. With that other resignation, even though she's a 4th grade teacher, everyone else within the building keeps their job. and you just have removed that person through attrition. So I think that is the right way to go. At a minimum, you decide if you wanna make a recommendation beyond that. And what that looks like, but I think that. You should give me that go ahead to at least share the information with the Board of Finance, and now that I've already done it, I'm gonna tell you, they're gonna cut you 58,000 already. But it's that being, you know. A little proactive and saying, look, I'm gonna share something with you, just as we have along the way, insurance dropped, new number, this is what we need now. Something else happened, new number, hey, special ed increase, outplacements came in, new number. It works in both directions, and I think with this new information, that should be considered.
What would that do to the percent?
It doesn't, it drops it like, you know, 0.6 or something, I think, you know, it's not a ton. It's around
But it does.
0.6, it's something,
What Samantha suggested, that we need to show that we're.
and it's not a couple $1,000s, $60,000 is a lot of money.
I think Bill's constantly been looking and in every possible nook and cranny and trying to find ways not only to save us this year, but to make the best, most accurate budget for next year coming up. And I do hear you, Samantha. I understand what you're saying completely. I think it's very important that the boards and committees in our town do our best to acknowledge each other and work together as much as we can. And also, as Jen pointed out, we have changed things around, and again, like Bill reports new things all the time. I do feel like we have provided a positive working relationship with the Board of Finance up until now, and I don't mean to sound like I'm just done like slamming doors. That's not the case, because obviously if we're told we need to change things, we're going to. It's just a combination of kind of all of those things at once. And I certainly agree that if we have a change, it needs to be updated as soon as possible, because that really affects what we're asking for and what we are presenting now, which for us changes all the time. But such is school life, that's how it rolls.
You'd be at a 7.30. That's the percentage increase would be 7.3. If you, right now we're 7.94. Removing the 58,555 would bring you down to a 7.3.
And what did you say before that special ed increase was? Was that was 7%?
I didn't say the percentage, but I know the special ed increase is $485,035.
Okay, what did it spell? So.
It's 5%. It's over 5%.
So then let's just say a 2.3.
2.3%.
Is what we actually requested.
And for years also, our board has returned money back to the general fund over and over and over again. So.
And that's with a 1.98% increase, a 1.14% increase, a 1.26% increase, a 0.85% increase.
Look at our.
It has been needs-based year after year after year, and you happen to have a big needs here.
Sorry.
Can you clarify how many outplacements we have going into next year?
Yes, so this is hard to explain because I don't want to give away information about outplacements. We budgeted for 23-24 for 2 outplacements. We currently have 7. We are appropriately budgeting 6 for next year. Because one of the individuals is either moving on, moving back, or moving on a tap. It's one of the scenarios plays out that we have information on that. And so we are budgeting for the appropriate number of outplacements that we know we will have, as of today, is 6 next year.
Okay. That being said. I know you don't want to give away information. I'm not asking for specific information. What I'm trying to get is the general sense of essentially how long this is going to last, because I think what gets lost in this conversation is this is not a 1-year thing.
You're
And
correct.
people are talking about, oh, they're gonna ask for the same thing next year, or they might be able to return it. That's not how this works. These are kids who are gonna have to be paid for throughout their tenure here, and however long that might be. I won't ask for specifics, but you have to assume it's going to be at least a couple years for at least maybe one might be in the equivalent of fourth grade. Maybe 3 or 4 that are in first grade, like this is gonna keep happening year after, like, we have to keep paying for them year after year after year, so, yeah. It hurts right now, but if you put it off now, it's gonna hurt next year. If you put it off next year, it's gonna hurt the year after, like, there's no choice on this matter, it's gotta be there, and it's gotta be there for the foreseeable future for these kids, like, there's not a choice here.
That's a really good point. And also, so just imagine we have 6 kindergartners, let's say,
Right.
at the very beginning of our school system career. Let's imagine they stay with us till 8th grade. Let's also imagine and know from experience that more students could move in who need to be outplaced. As well, we could have some who are able to come back into the district, perhaps they'll move, perhaps they'll graduate and go on to a high school setting. You're totally right. That's completely out of our hands, and it's certainly something I think a lot of districts are experiencing, and we're doing everything we can to service all children to the best of our ability. No one should ever be questioning that, in my opinion, because we know our staff, we know our programming, it's strong. And that's an important thing to say for sure. Lasting.
I feel like we were talking about how to get this information out to the public. It seems like a lot of people, well, it seems like more people are paying attention to the Board of Finance and kind of the goings on there. I feel like a collaborative discussion with the Board of Finance, having some real conversation about, John, as you were talking about earlier, the special education costs and making sure that it's out there in that committee in public discussion that special education budget is non-negotiable. And because the school budget's gone up so much, the special education budget has gone up so much, and we have zero control over that. Thus, neither does the Board of Finance. So to mandate cuts from basically a 1.2 or whatever that extra percentage was, budget is not even worth discussing.
So, if you were at the town meeting, you heard my rant about this. We have a fundamental problem in this town with, people not being engaged in coming and getting information on Facebook and thinking that is the information. And until we change getting how to get the message across, and it costs money. We did some research and they're putting out their, the article things in Ashford, and they're spending thousands and thousands of dollars to do this. Our videos are recorded. Our budget workshop number 3 got 24 views. Our workshop number 2 got 39 views, and our budget workshop number 1 got 34 views. We have to get information in people's hands and the method that they're going to look at it. I don't think they're watching videos, they're not attending meetings. The house has to be on fire before people respond, and maybe the house is on fire now, I don't know. I put out a letter to all the families and I got no responses back, 0. Not one, hey, what can I do about this? So all of that stuff is alarming. I don't know if it's a joint meeting. I think the Board of Finance actually heard me, and because it's a joint board, it's a newer board, and they put forward a big budget. But it's the people that came to. Do we need a tent out front to answer questions? So when you're walking in, someone's answering questions there. You can't advocate for your budget, I don't think, at that time. But could you answer questions? I don't know. Something different needs to happen, and people need to have accurate information. And not just keep saying, call Tammy, call Jeff, you know, Board of Ed needs to make 1 million, you know, cuts. That communication, I think, is really, really important. But it costs money.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say too, is like, it's not. I don't know if our main fight is the fight with the Board of Finance, and I don't even wanna call it a fight. Cause that just sounds aggressive, but our. Issue feels like the wrong word too, I can't find the word I'm looking for.
Challenge.
Yeah, our challenge is getting to the citizens, like you said, it was 16-17% turnout, so it's like, I understand that certain things cost money, but.
Yeah.
Should we, I mean, there's text messages that you can send out, a text blast, there's the digital backpack, there's. Mailer, you know what I mean, like, is this something that in the future, since.
Once the referendum is set, we're limited in what we can send out, and we can only do informational flyers that are not basically saying, support this, but you can send out information that is factual, which is what I brought to like the town meeting, I put the 1-pager on. I do the snapshot and the budget document intentional, because you can get a lot of information from 1 page. What's the increase? Why is it happening? Where are the costs coming from, and you know, what's the Board of Ed done about it? You can see that in 1 page. That 1-pager needs to go to every household in this town.
What about the Willington wire, but that's too slow.
It's too slow, and people, you've gotta dig it out. You know, right now, information needs to be in people's face, that is how people, you know, we all, with our phones, want our information super fast. We want it concise, which is why our budget document is the way it is, but if you want the information about your budget. And you spend some time on the budget document, all the information is there.
Is it something we could update our website and post it to Facebook and have some like catchy verbiage saying like curious about it? A lot of people said they didn't even know that there was a vote, and I know it's so frustrating because we keep running to this time and time again of people. You know, how do you get the information to people who aren't necessarily looking when you have all these different avenues like the town website, which could use some more signs on, you know, different rows, things like that, but it's like. I feel like that's one thing that I keep hearing from a plethora of different people is the lack of information or the feeling of the lack of information. Not that we're not trying to get the information out there, but how do we get it to the people? So I think if maybe we did cause, you know, the internet's free for the most part, like if we did an update of the budget, like, okay, this failed, here's the information, are you curious about what's going on with this, here, read this, oh, well, actually, it's mostly a 5% increase from state mandates, we're really just asking, you know what I'm trying to say, like. That way, because people, like you said, are going to Facebook, so instead of having certain people have the narrative, if we kind of try to control it ourselves in a creative way. For free that way, because we already have a website, it would just be a little bit, I mean, I don't know if that's a dumb idea, it's just throwing it out there, that like. The town of Willington, or I don't know if. One of us is allowed to share it or how that works, like here, this is what's going on, please go to this link to. And who knows if they would, but it's better than comments of back and forth and people
Can I
speculating. I don't know.
piggyback off of you?
Yeah,
You're looking at it from the wrong angle. You're looking at it from the top saying, how do we get the information down? You don't wanna look at it that way. You look at it from the bottom and you say, why do people go to Facebook for this kind of stuff? Why do they get their information there? It's because it's a discussion. It's not just a piece of paper. It's not just a static thing that says, hey, read this. It's people going back and forth and commenting and talking.
that's true.
That's how you reach people. It's as classic as can be. You reach people on the soapbox. Like that's how you get that kind of interaction, and that creates our challenge and our limitation as far as what we can do as a board, as board members in that interaction. Like it's a whole. It's almost a battle that you're not gonna win as an official because you can't do much in that sense of interaction, but people are getting that information because they can go back and forth with each other, because there's long threads of comments, because there's people spouting off about whatever they want to spout off about, and they're pulling whatever they want because it's interactive, it's live, it's not static. And I think a piece of paper or a web page or a sign or whatever, it's never gonna get the same, it's never gonna get the.
Was it smart to hold like a, not an open house, but like something, and it might be too late in the game for that, but I'm just talking
Now
about.
we're here. Kind of, well, he's here.
Are there rules about us attending school events
So,
or other like community events?
no, when there's no referendum set, you can do things, the rules that you have to abide by are if you have a quorum. And then you wanna be cautious about having people together advocating.
Well, there's a big
Be-
difference between that.
But I can do that on your behalf, but what does it look like? You know, I mean, I can be at every stake and event that I listed on the front side here and say. You know, stating with a budget, what questions can I answer for you? I mean. I don't wanna go on Facebook Live, but is that what we need to do?
I'll make you a giant pie folder to carry around and wear a costume, whatever we have to do.
I can answer all those questions, and I did answer a question on Facebook, someone actually posted something and I responded to it because it was a question, it wasn't. It wasn't just a, you know, think of whatever you want.
One thing that Samantha said that was really true. The only reason I know there's gonna be a referendum or a town hall is because I hear about it at these meetings. Everybody doesn't go to these meetings. What would happen if we, did a postcard? Like before you have to do it before the referendum is set? And then.
We just have to make sure we follow again, it
Yeah.
costs money, but that's
But
something
now
that,
put it in everybody's hands.
Yep.
And maybe work with the board of finance so that,
But they don't go that.
you have the whole town.
To me, that's more of a board of selectmen, thing. Like, I think that's something that the selectmen should take up and send out to the whole town. Hey,
That's good, it wouldn't be in our budget.
They talked about that at one of their meetings, about how to generate,
that was my rant.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it ended up nowhere. It just ended up nowhere.
There was discussion of a joint letter between the Board of Selectmen and the Chair of the Board of Finance and myself, and I never heard from any of them. I worked on the draft myself.
But it has to get to everybody, it has to be right there, it has to be.
About a
If you
sign.
want me to
right?
push that avenue.
There were more signs this year
I saw.
about vote coming up than I've ever seen.
Mhm.
But again, if you don't know what you're voting for, I mean, you know,
I do think turnout was a huge problem. I mean, if you look at these numbers, that's pretty clear to me. I mean, it's not even like it was a total blowout between the, the difference of votes for question 2, 3, or even really question 1. So
The problem is referendum turnout's never high. Like that's, unless it's an election for something.
right, and that's probably high compared to. Right,
It very well might be.
Well, the other thing is, I don't know exactly what the percentages are, but is this similar to what the result of our school vote?
no,
No, this is
school vote
much,
was a blowout,
was much more.
Yes.
But, yeah, I wonder if there's any correlation between the two of those.
I keep beating this drum, but I really do think that there needs to be more collaboration among the committees who make these kinds of decisions. If we were sitting down with the Board of Finance and or the Board of Selectmen, we would have everyone in the same room, obviously, and be able to kind of identify a path forward. So it's not them talking in isolation and it's not us talking in isolation, it's the people who are responsible for these things talking all together as a group as to how to move forward. Because it's not just a BOE problem that the people didn't show up to vote for the budget, it's a town problem. And I feel like there's a lot of smart people on these boards and we should start kind of utilizing that.
Also, don't feel bad because this isn't just our town. I know for a fact Coventry's failed.
Yes.
There's a.
Colin too.
Yeah.
So it's not just isolated to us, that's the other part of it. So, and the other thing to remember too is I hear a lot of people who are like, oh, well, you know, inflation's so high, and this is a good financial time to ask for a lot of things, and that's fine, and that's a fair point, except for the fact that when you go back into the budget raises during the good times, you didn't even break 2%, so where is this? This is my argument with a needs-based budget, no offense, Phil. But in times when things are doing better with the economy and everybody's happy and we only have a 1% budget, why shouldn't we have a 3% to start building this stuff, to start moving along? And not necessarily for, obviously, this is a completely different situation, but I'm more talking to what we'll be talking about next, which is the facility stuff. We could have put something in the budget and got some additional school repairs done with some extra money or something, you know what I mean? So it's one of those things where it's not a good time now, but there really isn't a choice. And when it was a good time, no one was complaining that the budget was low. And that's a time when we could have bumped it up a little bit.
It's never gonna be a good time for some people.
No, of course, that's true.
I remember, I think it was, you or then Samantha asking why we return this, like, is there a rule, or we just do this because it's historical practice to return this much at the end? Is there a, rule or direction about how much you can put or keep in non-lapsing? And how much you have to, or?
There is a cap on that,
There's a
for
cap
sure,
on
yes, yeah,
Is
yeah,
it
and we
down now, a
yes,
percentage
it's a
or?
percentage of your budget. So we were maxed out this year,
Okay,
so we had done the right thing as far as having the dollars go.
and then we
It
end up,
should be, in my opinion, higher than that,
yeah,
because it's already been money that the tax, and you can create an account of a larger pool to fund whatever education projects issues you have come up. Because as we know, $280,000, which is about your cap, is 2 outplacements.
Is that a state?
That's law. And they bumped it up. It used to be 2%, 1%. 1%.
And then whatever we have above that, we give to the town.
They get the money.
Right, and it's a good thing.
Right, and we have been very transparency in budgeting. If anybody ever says to me, you're not transparent about budgeting, it really makes me hot under the collar, because I put everything out there. Like, it is there, and when I do end of the year spending stuff, it is at the table, everybody knows about it. You wanna know what we were asking for at the end of the year when there is end of the year spending, when there is a bit of a surplus? I'm very clear about those things. It's how you paid for your Chromebooks. It's how you paid for your staff laptops. Those are things that don't fall in the budget. So we're transparent about those things, and then there's still money that's goes back in. Which is what the funds they've used to offset taxes in prior years. But you need to make a decision tonight about what you want me to go with on Thursday night. Is it that just the 58? And then let's see where they go from there.
what you just said about, what we return back to the general fund helps offset taxes for the town. So that's again, another example, all of this, what we've given back year after year, our percent increases year after year, that is how we are working with the Board of Finance and the people too.
Right, and part of the accusation is, instead of giving the money back, you should have done a project. You don't have that window to do those projects. You need months to set up a project to meet code. When I find out on, April 1st, I'm gonna have $200,000, it's not enough time to get through a big project.
That's why. our
No,
system
it's
builds
not.
it up.
But
If we had the
if you
account.
had something in the back pocket and you said, okay, here's what we could, here's projects that are needed, here's what they'll cost, and it was like one of those things where it's like, hey, looks like we're gonna be able to meet this, let's get it started, we can allocate that money to wherever it needs to go.
Right.
We can get it started. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I understand you can't just,
The smaller projects,
Right.
that's what we've done.
Yeah.
The smaller
I'm
projects.
not
we've
talking,
done.
obviously with, 74,000, you're not gonna be huge, but
Right.
74,000 is a chimney, you know what I mean?
Right.
So.
I think it would be smart if we had anything, I mean, I understand your point of like, you need to have certain things. Take months long process to get certain projects done, but
I wanna get rid of that friggin' Siemens lease. And I think the more that we can dump on that, if we have anything left over, it's gonna be us thinking ourselves in the future. And that's something we already know that we have, you know what I mean? So it's not like you have to worry about a timeline for a project. We're just getting rid of the debt.
We gotta remember that at the end of the next school year, if there's anything left.
I'll remember.
I do every year too, I know.
But to circle back, I think 58,000, if we don't need that kindergarten teacher and they are retiring or leaving, definitely give that to the Board of Finance, and that's it. I would say, oh, you
That's
got
the
so
one thing
much
that we-
already.
What you offer up as a board, and then wherever they go from there, they go.
And again, like I look at that as an update, as he has.
Yes, exactly. I really-
The entire time.
I agree, I feel like it's really important to say this is something that just happened, so
Right.
this is an update to our budget, as you said, you know, and.
And it could have been 48 kids and we need an additional teacher.
Yep.
But we wouldn't have been able to ask for that money, they wouldn't have given that to us. We would have had to operate with that, so, okay, I will,
We have to make a motion or something.
no, as long as you're comfortable with it, because you're not really changing your number, you just understand that's what I'm gonna go in with. You could change your number if you want to, but
So you're saying you're gonna go in with a suggested cut to them, or you're gonna go in with a different number? 'Cause I think if you go in with a different number, don't you need?
I'm gonna present it as. See, the conversation is gonna be, what does the board of ed have to offer? We have new information. You can remove $58,000 from the budget. And then go from there. If you wanna give it to them as, hey, our new number is, this is who this position, you could do that.
Yeah,
And
but
what,
that's gonna require a motion, because that changes.
Correct, that does require,
That's a procedural question,
correct.
Now, moving forward, is there any way to separate this tuition thing from our budget? So that we have.
No cost of doing
Special
business.
fund,
That's your non-lapsing account. That's your non-lapsing account, and you're not the only district that's dealing with this. I mean,
right,
if you saw the stuff in Enfield, they had 70 kids move in and then into Enfield. They are dealing with the same types of issues. Lots of kids coming in, they're not all out of place, but more special ed needs, cost goes up, you have to pay for it.
With this $58,000 change, how many students will be in each kindergarten? You said 12?
12.
How many more can we add on before it's an issue?
So my feeling is when you're talking about 5-year-olds, so you're at 24, to me, my window is 8 kids. If you had a class of 16, you're still in reasonable lane.
Okay.
You start going higher than that with no support with 5-year-olds. I'm not talking, middle school, different story, right? Your numbers can go up. That's a different, I know, right? The early childhood people, that's the reality of it. Like there's, that's.
So there's room in there.
And that's why I say. Even if there was a bubble that came out of nowhere, even though we've already had and typically it happens right around kindergarten orientation. It didn't happen. There's not a bunch of names out there that were like, hey, they didn't call us and they just could come out of the woodwork. There's one name.
the new
One.
law about birthday too has changed things quite a bit. Cause that
I
eliminates a
forgot
whole
about that.
bunch of students with the baby birthdays, who cannot get out.
Did that affect a lot of students?
And we're at 24 now.
Okay.
It didn't.
Are you centering a shift to teacher to fourth, we're gonna do another shuffle of teachers around?
Lisa will manage who's going where,
Okay.
depending on the hiring and what happens. We typically, you wanna do it so that someone wants to move into that position. There's contractual language, but it's only when the contractual language is only across buildings. So typically she would ask and say, hey, does anybody want to loop? Does anybody, here's where the openings are, is anybody interested in that? And then she builds teams based upon that, but obviously there's gonna be some movement.
Okay. I hope you don't all feel like this is very redundant. I know that you're probably exhausted of the topic. Again, we please review the very important points that were made about this topic in the last 20 minutes or so. And make sure we're on the same page and we know like what are very important driving points impacts the quality. So. Where can we start here?
Transparency.
Yes, I want, like, it's all like, maybe this is just for me, swirling around everywhere. And so I feel like I need to be a voice for our group and for our students and teachers. Sometimes I get worried that I don't have the facts straight, and that sometimes keeps me from speaking forward. And I don't want that to be the case anymore. I need to be more of a participant. So can you help me? And then, don't want it to be selfish, we help each other get it straight. So, okay, what is our, we know what our dollar amount is we put forward. That was the 90, and if you're just joining us, hey, Willington, whatever minute this is, can you tell what minute this is? It's 93. 93 minutes. Okay, so tell your friends to check out our video recording at 93 minutes for the little
Highlights.
highlight reel, okay? Okay,
Budget is driven by special education costs this year.
it
It's
certainly is.
definitely a,
Roughly 5% of the total budget increase is special ed alone.
Okay. Go ahead.
I was gonna say 2.3% is the actual ask that we're asking for. The 5% is state mandated.
And that's seven.
Or,
So
Go ahead.
it's not 5% of the increase, it's 5% of the flood, it's like 95% of the increase.
Okay.
Because if you phrase it like that. I just wanna be accurate.
Yeah.
With your wording, it's not, the increase is separate from the budget, it's like 5 point something% of the budget, but it's like 97.3% of the increase.
that's why I say the dollar amount, because I say,
Yep.
when you say a $667,000 increase in 490,000 is special ed. That tells a pretty big story.
Mhm.
Okay, can you say that one more time for the,
Oh, me?
hit it up, we're trying to do a.
A highlights reel.
No, I don't have the actual percentages, but you're looking at the increase to the increase.
So sorry.
The budget is being increased, it's driven by special education. Roughly 95% of the increase to the budget is special education. The budget increase,
It was.
the actual budget increase. If just taking special education alone is a little over 5%. And with. Other things that are in the budget. Including not going for salaries and things like that, it brings up we've got it down to 7.3.
And was it 9.7?
We flirted at 9 for a while, but.
7 something, that's what was voted down, was 7.
Yes, $9,877,772, which was a $726,299 increase. And it is a 7.94% increase. That's what we just presented and offered up at referendum. That was voted, or that failed.
And then, as Arthur was saying, 5% of that 7.94 was
Rough.
is 7 or 6 outplacements.
But.
You're budgeting appropriately for 6 outplacements.
Okay.
So if, well, that's all of special education, though, not just the outplacements.
And that totals 400.
That was the largest driver of that category.
Yes, okay. But not, I mean, some of that stuff is, even if we didn't have, it would still be there, it would still stand, right?
Yeah, well, some of the out, because there's the outplacement, there's a little piece of transportation, which then got brought back down, but it was still a little something, yeah. All the pieces have to be increased to get that whole increase in that category, so.
Okay.
And then that 5%, 6 outplaces was about 490,000, is that correct?
And that's because it's an increase of 4 over the 2 existing placements. That's why people are gonna ask why those numbers don't jive. And that's why, because we already budgeted for 2, we'll actually, we will be budgeting for 4 or 6 total.
And now, what else, Phil, did you want to say about transparency? We have our,
Well, that's the presentation of the new data. You have new data around kindergarten numbers and. Everything that you've done in your budget process has been in the meeting, it's been recorded, it's. You know, you
And
talked
it's all
about your needs,
needs-based.
you've had those conversations, someone can say. And I'm probably 5 of those numbers on the YouTube videos because I watch them when we go through minutes. So,
We also talked about the history of our percent increase over the last few years, which has been minimal. We also talked about what we have returned to the general fund at the end of each year, which was also significant. That's on page 36 of our proposed budget. What other important highlights do you think we need to make sure are very clear? Oh, the fact that outplacements last the duration of a child's study time in Willington, or could move in at any time. And yes, students could move out, graduate, or return to school. But an outplacement does not mean it is a one-year investment. It's as long as the student is with us, investment in that child's education. And that is not only our responsibility, but is our honor and privilege. Yes, ma'am.
Not about special education, but about a different part of our budget.
Sure.
So, you know, we're upping our money for CIP for the facilities projects that need to be done, which that's what inadvertently we decided as a town. We voted down not getting a new school or combining schools, so it's one or the other. We're either gonna update and take care of our current buildings, which is what it seemed like everybody wanted to do based on the failed new school referendum. We decided as a group to add a facilities manager, which I think is, like we said, is gonna be an easy target. Could the projects be done without a facilities manager? Yes. Efficiently, probably not. So it's something to keep in mind that because that was a high turnout for that referendum. I don't remember was it like 70% or something? Something like that, right, which is a big turnout, so that is a good example of, okay, this is what the majority of people, and for whatever reason, there was a plethora of reasons why people voted it down. But the result of having done that leads us to where we are now, and so. You know, it could be an easy jab to say, well, you have the 56 or whatever, and the extra 80 or whatever, they might say that, but you have to keep in mind that there's. I'm having a blank, there's a repercussion for the choices that people make. So it's like, okay, well, we decided we're gonna do these projects and update our schools and to the best of our ability, we did the study. We should have somebody who's really, you know, navigating and making sure that the projects are being done efficiently. They're going through the, you know, it's a job in and of itself, so it kind of is just. You know, potentially advocating for that salary to have it be. An efficient process that not only hopefully saves time, but money and making sure that all those projects that we're. Putting money aside for and have been and will continue to for the foreseeable future, get done. I didn't wanna just let that, you know, just focus on special ed because I think that's gonna be a hot topic, you know what I mean? Special ed is what it is, but people are gonna be like, well, what about this, what about that? It's like, okay, well. Like I said, not to beat a dead horse, you could cut the facilities manager, but we're kind of trying to go in this direction and. It would seem to be advantageous to have somebody help us with that process and not just dump it all on Phil or on us of like, okay, well, let's do this first and then this and then. You know what I mean, try to do it ourselves.
I do think that having that position in our budget is a positive response to what was, as you said, inadvertently asked of us by our townspeople. Because there is actually another third choice, which is to do nothing. And there's not a single one of us here, I'm sure, who will accept
Right.
that.
I think there's a. I don't know how to say it, like, there's a group of folks in town who are a significant voting bloc, I feel like, that do feel like doing nothing is an option. And that's kind of the group that we need to figure out how to get our message to, I think.
Okay, let's not fall too far into facilities manager because we are gonna talk about QA and M, but that is a part of our budget, so it certainly makes sense to put it there. Did we miss anything? No, okay, I think that, that was really great, thank you all very much. And if we can support each other and keep, make sure the facts are straight and clear, then we're gonna be able to find a way to make some headway. You know, there's that whole, like, you can take a, bring water to our, how does that one go? Bring a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So we have water all over the place and we're trying to get a hold of the horses unless we can over here. But, hopefully we'll be able to figure it out. And there is that board of finance meeting this week on Thursday night, so hopefully there'll be a lot of participation every which way. Okay, before I leave this agenda item, everyone prepared to move forward with that?
I'm just processing Arthur's comment again. I do think you should vote on a number. And the reason why is because if it does pass and it goes through, eventually you're gonna have to vote on that number and you'll have to vote on that number before it goes to referendum. Or you don't have to vote on the number before it goes to referendum, but you'll have to vote on it before they create the budget. And Donna's gonna want that number before she creates the budget. So just in case it's the only thing you get cut is that 58, I do think you should do a new number. And that new number is $9,819,217. And I will do it again. Now, your current budget is request is $9,877,772. You are subtracting 58,555 for a new number budget request of $9,819,217. I do think you should vote on that. That way, if it does go through, you don't have to come back just to vote on that.
So do you have the increase that would be?
It doesn't go through anyways. The increase, I think, becomes a 7.30. But the only thing you're reading the number would be the total budget place.
Right, then I move that the Willington Board of Education recommend to the Willington Board of Finance the 2024-2025 school budget in the amount of $9,819,217.
Second.
Need for discussion? Okay. All in favor of making that change, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are gonna pass that, take that new number to the Board of Finance on Thursday. Will you also be able to give them a new increased percentage?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll update the one pager.
Okay, thank you for doing that. That probably helps the Board of Finance also just to see all of those numbers now laid out. So, teamwork. Okay, item 11, old business, part A, facility study discussion. That is our QAM. What did I want to say about this? Oh, right, as Samantha said earlier, because the vote for the new school referendum failed, this is, in a direct response to that, it is our responsibility to care for our facilities, of course. One of Bill and the Board of Education's goals is for sustainable and strategic investments. That's part of that's actually our third goal. So, it is our responsibility to make sure that we secure stability for our district, and that includes the buildings and our children and our programming. If our buildings continue to decline, we could have a situation where we may be signed, sued, or we may have some condemning. I don't think we're gonna get to that point, but that's part of that word stability and sustaining investments. And I believe it's costing us more day by day. It's certainly not getting cheaper for materials or labor. And I do believe that QAM has done a complete report for us, and I certainly know that they are aware of our buildings. They've been working with our town for a long time, and that is just a few off the top of my head there. Okay,
I guess my question is, how deep do you want to get into this discussion?
well, I mean, is it good?
There's a lot back in the discussion, so I don't know how you.
Okay, well, do you wanna start with this, HVAC stuff?
I have a question.
That makes
Sure,
sense?
yeah.
Go for it.
Oh, okay. Back on the spot again, so. So I was going over the proposal, the HVAC sprinkler roof proposal from QA&M, and I guess I'm very confused, because I'm looking at. The net cost, I'm looking at all of these numbers, and. I remember you thinking that we would have enough. With the two and a quarter million, 2.5 million from CIP. To have enough basically. To make the roof of the HVAC project shovel ready in order to get the grants going. When I look at QA&M's numbers, that does not appear to be the case, and I understand they threw fire sprinklers here. And I get that adds a cost to it, but it looks like. It's just, the numbers blown out of the water, so I'm wondering, I guess my question is. Where do we go from here? Because I don't wanna lose out on an HVAC grant, because that's gonna cost a significant amount of money if we lose out on that. And I know the roof grants, it's a monthly thing, it's a whatever, but the HVAC grant has kind of a drop dead date, where it's like, if it's not here, the money probably won't be in the next one. So. What are we looking at,
So the things that he added in here that we didn't have in ours, I mean, he added in. The point, and this is where the fire, the sprinkler came in. During the conversation, when he said, you're gonna do HVAC and you're gonna spend so much money between HVAC and roofs. That you're gonna be required to bring other things up to code during that time, and you're gonna have to take care of those projects. So he's gone in here in a few, and I can actually put this on the screen. Probably easier.
Well, let's be very clear too, what is the state of sprinklers in our school buildings? There are no sprinklers in our school buildings at this time.
So when he was doing this, he looked and said, look at, when you do this type of project. You're gonna add the sprinkler system, you're then gonna have to upgrade your electrical. You're gonna be doing ceiling tiles, none of those things were factored in. I mean, ceiling tile replacement is $750,000. Plaster, we had one section of the library was like 50 grand and 75 here. So he's and remove, replace and reinstall lighting. He added that in too, so there is additional chunks in there, the core of the HVAC. When you look at hall is about 6 million. But that's the issue, and so when you look at these two projects together. You're in the 17 million range.
Right.
For we just talked about.
They're adding the sprinklers because we have to bring it up to code, or just
Well,
because the ceiling's gonna be open and they're looking at it.
So it was part of that, and I don't wanna say this wrong, but from what I understand, when you are spending over, I believe the number was $2 million into the school project. That you had to bring certain things up to code, that is one of them.
Now, what would be reimbursable?
So that 17 million is your town cost.
That's taken
After
away what
reimbursement.
has been reimbursed. Okay.
Yes, so
Not reimbursed is like. 30 million,
30 million.
about 30 million.
So that costs the price of half of a brand new school.
the whole school project alone is a $20 million project. And after your reimbursement, you're paying 11 and you're getting back about 9.
So this project, this one project will cost half of the new school.
That's not entirely accurate, but
But-
that's fine.
Before reimbursement or?
This isn't one project, this is like, call it a phase.
Or
'Cause
several.
a bad way to look at it, right?
Yeah.
You're updating several things that you have, make sense during that time and that you
Right.
have to bring up to code.
New roof.
But you're not impacting the
HVAC.
EPA, correct?
Okay.
You're spending a heck of a lot of money. To update your lighting, your electrical, your roof, this doesn't have any solar in it. And putting in HVAC.
And that's air conditioning and heating.
And And the fresh air intake, all that exchange.
Can I ask what the update on cause I know Connecticut wanted to put in laws about air quality in schools, can I ask?
They're still talking about it. They're getting a lot of pushback about the temperature ranges. I will share with you that, when the referendum failed, and I don't wanna be a douche, seemed like a little, naysayer in this, but, this is not gonna fly. I'm just gonna be really blunt in my opinion. If we can't pass a budget with a $500,000 increase and a $500,000 increase on a CIP projects, there's no way this is gonna fly the way it is. One of the things that we've been working on in the background is trying to, Tammy Nuccio is our state rep, and she's very aware. As I've mentioned to you before, I've met with her on this. She's very aware of the situation. She's very, very aware of our ability to pay. I'm trying to get Jeff Gordon and Tammy out for a tour. They wanna come and walk the buildings. And Jeff Curry, also, who I've talked to, is the head of the education committee. What I will call a powerful person. Because he's the head of the committee. I have a direct line to these folks now. They will call me, they'll take my calls, they know who they're talking to. He wants to come and walk the buildings to get a sense of, where we're at and what we're trying to do. My personal belief is, the way the referendum failed, the school building referendum failed. There's no way this is gonna happen, because it's just as much money. And this is phase one. The only way this happens is with special legislation and getting a significantly higher reimbursement rate. If you take that 63% and you can get it into the 80s, you greatly impact your project capacity of what you can afford. And I don't think that's unheard of. The only way that happens, though, in my opinion, they would, if they were pushing for it, would be a consolidation project. I don't know that that's the way, because they wanna see you get down to one building. That might be an argument for them to push a higher reimbursement rate. That's my 2 cents on it. I think if we're gonna spend time on something, it's getting Tammy Nuccio and Jeff Gordon in here and Jeff Curry and giving them a tour and then talking through with taxpayers and townspeople. Tammy knows of the percentage we have for folks that are on free and reduced lunch and who is living at poverty levels. She's very aware of all those things. That special legislation piece to me is like if we're gonna spend energy on anything, it's where we should be doing it. I don't even think that we can afford HVAC. You could do I just want to finish this last thing. You could do your 2 roof projects. They're under $2 million a piece because they're separate projects. And it wouldn't trigger this. You have the funding for it. It would be kind of wacky to do that and then, come back to look at HVAC. And if you did go to one building in the future, you might have to pay some roof money back. I'm not so sure. Rusty kind of looked at me with that starry eye, like, I don't know, you're having this conversation, but looking at this, what it is, and when you open it up and you have to spend this much money. And you have to bring these things to code. If you couldn't pass a new building, there's no way you're gonna pass this. So.
What is Willimantic's reimbursement?
No idea, they're probably in the 80s. Yeah.
What makes them get more than us? What is the?
So they set the rate for each town. And your new rate, you get a new rate and the reimbursement rate, and depending on your ability to pay and your level of poverty, you get a higher rate. So, I've argued Region 19 has one of the highest rates, if not the highest rate in the state. Maybe we should be able to get that rate as well, because we send our kids there.
And
The-
comparable with
The
Mansfield.
calculation is broken, and Mansfield has a higher reimbursement rate than us as well. Because of UConn, they're UConn students. So their poverty rates look like they're off the charts. It's a broken system. We are not going to fix the system. And it's not even worth trying to have that conversation. The way to have the conversation is to get the politicians involved that can bring support for a higher reimbursement rate to get a project that will actually pass in this town, whatever that project may be.
So how do we do that?
So that takes some time of getting those folks in, of getting a tour, having Brianna walk, scheduling a meeting with them as a board with you to ask questions of them and have conversations if they're willing to do that. It takes my two cents. It takes a firm to do some sort of marketing. What are you willing to pay for in this town? And I'm gonna be really blunt in saying this. There are people that voted this budget down because they thought they were voting for a new school. I voted no. Didn't we already fail this new school thing already? That's what they thought they were voting for. So that taste is still fresh. We need some marketing in board events specific. That is tied to what are people willing to pay for. I'm making a statement saying, I don't think they're gonna pay 17, it's $17 million to do these projects. And we're not even gonna do it. Scratch the surface.
How much will we get from the HVAC grant? Do we know that?
It's 63%, but after all the, you get hit with the
Whatever we
things,
spent.
it's about that. It's about that. But again, that's why I feel like going the legislative route, and I've never liked trying to bypass that, the system, the way that's set up. It is the only way you're gonna get bigger dollars. It's the only way you're gonna get a project that's over $2 million done.
That's fine and all, but what's your plan B? Because I don't wanna sit and do absolutely, I don't wanna sit and put all the eggs into, we gotta get these politicians to get us a change, so.
You have to do both.
Right, well, that's what I'm saying, is so let's look at this as it sits right now, so. Look at the cost of, not anymore, it's what we have to do, I'm done with what we can afford, and quite frankly, and I know it's a horrible financial strategy, but we've done, what can we afford for Hall's been around for 100 years?
True.
So. If you're looking at 17 million to the town of Willington, are we looking at a bond? And then are we looking into a higher bond to get some of these other projects included in them and ready to go at some point? I mean, well, does anybody know what the library bond was offhand?
$3 million.
No, fair enough. So, right, but that gives, what the bond will do is it gives a solid number to CIP to say, we're gonna have to pay this back to the state every year for 30 years, 40 years, whatever, however many years it ends up being. And it ends up being a consistent number, and people like consistent numbers, it's like, you're gonna have this, and you're gonna have it for a while, but it takes care of all of this stuff, instead of, so we need 2 million for this, we're gonna need 6 million for this, we're gonna need 4 million for this, we're gonna need $500,000 for this, you know what I mean? So, I'm just looking at what the best way then to approach is, do you wanna look at the possibility of doing a roof project with nothing else? Do you wanna look at the possibility of bonding something to a large amount to say?
I can get bond payments, I mean, again, I'm looking at QNAM's report saying this is what they're suggesting in round one. If you're gonna do this, you should do this pocket of things. That's really the phase he gave you, right? So if that's the case, you could look at what that is gonna cost and what that bond is. I can get those bond payments. And again, in coordination, we can chip away at some of the smaller things. The bigger projects are just gonna sit there.
Right.
They're just gonna sit there, but while we're trying to get politicians on board, that is something easy to get. Okay, we have a $17 million project, if we were gonna do a $30 million bond, what does the bond payment look like?
At least to have it and be like, okay, well, we couldn't get anything passed, here we are, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
What was the total over 10 years again? Was it like
55,
52?
no, it was 23 million for center. And 33 million for the hall. Like that, it was 33 for hall.
And that's not really redesigning anything, that's just.
No, that is.
It is a 100-year-old building
Yep.
plus, because now we've moved on several months.
it is a repair.
That is not going to change anything.
Right. No redesigning spaces, nothing like that.
No,
No, we're gonna just,
Fix what's broken.
and right, and
Yeah.
Bill said the things we can't get to are still gonna be there. Well, in the meantime, there's 3 other things now we're gonna pack at the bottom of our list.
Can I share a little story? They say stories go a long way. My first grade granddaughter came home and she hadn't eaten her watermelon. I said, Michaela, why didn't you eat your watermelon? She goes, because my hands would have gotten sticky and I wouldn't have been able to wash my hands. How come? The sink is broken and the bathroom sink is broken and Mr. So-and-so's trying to fix it, but it's not fixed yet. And this is our plumbers who don't want to come and work on our, right, Phil, that don't want to come and work on our plumbing because it's too old. So that's just one day, one kid, one story. Sorry, I don't mean to, but it's your life.
If we do these projects that are just in phase 1. This is probably a super basic question, but will it extend the life of the building? I feel like it's not necessarily the case that doing HVAC in a building will extend the life of it. It will make it more comfortable, but the building is still 100 years.
Yeah, but if you looked at Rusty, in the report here, one of the things he said in the back of Hall was that the building was a sound build and there's not a lot that's going, it's a solid building and it's not going. So that's a plus.
Yeah.
right, you're just not gonna redesign layout is the point. You're gonna have HVAC and you're gonna have to continue using the spaces and layout as they are.
Which may not be as
It's not a
efficient as
20th
necessary.
century school or whatever we're trying to.
Sustainability. That's kind of.
Well, I was just gonna say, with the new HVAC, now you have humidity control at least, which prevents mold and deterioration that way.
You also don't have
To answer your
sprinkler
question.
in the same.
But that doesn't change the longevity of the building, the sprinkler doesn't.
But it saves a
Well,
lot.
and I think the children.
I'm answering her question. Trying to.
Nothing's gonna extend the longevity of building except that you pay your building, and that's not what we're discussing.
But it's kind of how you discuss it in how you get it through the town. Like, if the discussion is $17 million for an HVAC to put on a 100-year-old building versus doing things to limp along, but then possibly getting help from the state to try and figure out what to do in a more grand scale. Or, to me, it's or we do a bond for everything. And this is how we proceed.
I mean, I guess you have to, I don't know if this is. It kind of has to do with what Phil was saying earlier. I mean, it would be nice, I don't know how. It would be nice to get a sense of. What's important to townspeople. Did people vote no because they were interested in keeping, like, some of the points that I had heard was that. Hall in particular is such a pinnacle of the town, you know what I mean, it's a visual, it's a historical thing that people wanted to keep. They didn't want to see it just go to the wayside and give it back to the Hall Foundation or whatever and let it become deteriorated. It's in the middle of the town. It's, you know, on a lot of paintings of the town, it represents our town to some people. So are people interested, do they vote no for a new school because they were interested in preserving and keeping that up and using it? So they vote no because they don't want to spend money on anything, it's never gonna be a good time. That's how you market these ideas to different people, is you have to figure out their reason why. You know what I'm trying to say? So it's like, when you're talking about how you market it for, okay, well, if we spend $17 million to add HVAC to a 100-year-old building for because of X, Y, and Z, you know what I mean? It's like, it's gonna increase longevity, or it's gonna do this or do that. It's like, well, kind of have to get a feel for what's important to people, you know what I mean? It's like, well, this is what we decided, like they said, you guys wanted to keep this, it was important to you, a lot of people. For nostalgia or whatever, they were there, they want their kids to go there, who knows? You know what I'm trying to say?
We're looking at this project, here's how it helps us and benefits us. Here are some concerns.
And maybe.
What do you want to
do?
But also, what do we have to do? Because, yeah, it's very sticky.
Are we able to get a survey out to the townspeople? Like, how would we?
Because the survey works so well.
I know, right? We want to fill them out.
The school building committee did many.
Yeah,
In their process, I know that's not the same as what we're trying to.
right, cause that got voted down, but now we have to find where to move towards.
Right now, we want to do a town
Right.
presentation about this.
I think you have to figure out what direction you wanna go with it.
Could it be a possibility that people voted no because they didn't realize the extent of how much? Could they not make a educated decision on a comparison of like, this is new, this, like, if we have.
Yeah, we had it. I
There
think
was
it's
like
purely money.
a
It's
billion.
expensive. I mean, I'm looking at the bond
Right,
payment
but like
right
Ann
now.
says, it's kind of comparable, that like in the grand scheme of
You
things.
didn't have this for school building, but you didn't have a visual like this, you had the prior report from however many, well, that 5 years beforehand, like this. What I like and don't like about this is the level of detail that they went into, like, you could go through every line item in here and figure out what it's gonna be, you know, I obviously have problems with these. But you can go in there and see everything, and I think if you presented something more along these lines in comparison's sake. You might have convinced a few more people to go for school building. I'm not saying it would have passed, but your vote might have been a little closer.
And that in partnership with an agreement from the state, you know, I think that's the number one thing to pursue is to start with the state.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
a year out.
But then in the
So
meantime,
when you start some step in the right direction. Either the roof or move towards bond payments and.
Well, we already know that people want the roofs, it's been voted on.
Right, I definitely need at least the roofs.
I get that, but I'm very afraid that the thing with the politicians is gonna fail, the HVAC stuff is gonna dry up, and we're gonna be on the hook for a hell of a lot more money when we're not getting.
Valid point.
So that's why I'm like, I really don't wanna let the HVAC go, I know it's expensive, but I really don't wanna let it go, because I don't wanna lose that chance. Of getting 63% is better than 0.
Should we get it and then they can change our reimbursement after the fact, or you're locked in, or you're not sure?
I don't know.
What was the bond payment? You started saying it?
So we had a 20-year bond layout in February of 23. A $28 million bond level principal. And the bond payments basically started at $3 million. And after the final bond payment was 1.5 million. So it gradually went down, you know, 100,000 each year. So for 28 million, again, these were rates were probably a little bit better. But you're looking at a $2 million bond for a $20 million project.
And one of the arguments I've heard about that, is to wait until we have completed the one for the library. Right,
Just
have you
next
heard
year.
that also? Yeah, we're near the end of it.
Yeah,
So
but what
some
about the
folks-
fire departments now too?
Yes,
So,
Which is why
we can't,
special rate is,
these
when you put those two projects together, you're never gonna come out and it's just. My feeling is one's gonna pass or the other one's gonna pass. But I do think QA&M, maybe we can beat the drum and have QA&M do this presentation and share this data once it's all, you know, everything's finalized. And if there's things you want to question here, you can email me, let me know, and I can have him double check things, but I think having someone else do a presentation, say, look, this is the state of your two schools. But I can get bond payments, I can see if he can identify, I mean, we can probably identify right now, I mean. We've been fixing things along the way and there's small things as they break, that's just the way we've been doing things. We could keep doing that. Kind of happy, right, I agree, depending on what it is.
And so you've been doing a really good job at that.
Well, we're
So
trying.
I don't, yeah, which is kind of making us, you don't have to keep doing it.
Talk about this at all, you just all leave it here.
Go for it.
Okay, so I looked at all the line items here. And if you went through it, there's a large amount, priority one's 11.3. And I'm going through the line items and I'm looking at things. And I'm wondering why some of these things are priority. And I'm looking at things like site signage for $50,000 is priority one. I'm not really sure why that's priority. Emergency access around building. Now I know that was a big point of contention for Rusty, but if you look at where the entry and exit points are of the buildings currently, you can get emergency vehicles pretty close to those points right now without having to do it. I'm not saying it's not gonna be needed in the future. What I'm saying is, I don't think we need to spend $375,000 in year one to create a path around the building right now. That could be something that could be put off. What I'm saying is, I think there's a lot of things in priority one that realistically could be put off to 2, 3, or 4. One of the things that was in here that I didn't understand for center was the repair to the complete repair to all the ramps for ADA compliance, when another line item in here is to install an elevator or some sort of lift to make the upper level accessible for ADA compliance. So to me, those things kind of conflict each other, where that eliminates your need for ramps at every entrance. Only the entrance that's going to, you can have one designated ADA entrance and then get anybody around the building via that lift. So there's a lot of things in here that. The other thing that was confusing is he's got air conditioning, HVAC controls, electrical service, ventilation, all this stuff in priority 2. But that was gonna be included in this project, which was gonna be priority 1. So like, there's a lot.
The HVAC is because I told him that, because of the grant, that is
Okay.
a board priority. Yeah.
Okay. But I looked at comparisons from Hall and Center, and where did I find it? So there's, the fencing amount for Hall and Center is identical, 112,500, which I find hard to believe because they're different size footprint buildings. So some of these things, I think some of the minor things, they might have mailed in a little bit and said, it's gonna be about the same, or it's pretty close between the buildings, and kind of is what it is, but I would have liked it to be a bit more accurate to the specific buildings. There's other things in here like septic system in the fields is priority 1. Do we know for a fact those things are priority 1 that have to be done, that they're coming up to be, like, the tank's gonna expire or whatever it's gonna be there? I know we have issue with the oil tank, I know that one, but I'm not positive on septic. There's things for, over the roof, the shingles, the membrane, all that kind of stuff is line item down, even though it's gonna be included in, they would be included in a roof replacement. Secured entrance vestibule was, but that's a priority 1. When we have, essentially Center has one, Hall doesn't necessarily have one, but you've got the cameras around the building and you've got the buzzing system. So you've got adequate security currently, and that's something that doesn't need to be done in year 1. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying it doesn't need to be done. I'm saying I don't think year 1 at 11 million for Center or 15 million for Hall really has to be that number. I don't think that has to be the priority. I think we could, if we look at this realistically, we could trim down those priorities and move some of them out a little bit. And lower it down and make it a bit more palatable that way. But that was my.
A lot of sense, but all very important ones. Do the ramps mean interior or exterior or both?
I'd have to look at where it's written.
It was under,
It was under exterior.
interior.
I don't think there are any interior ramps,
4.0 interior ADA accessibility, it says
unless
ramp
it's a hall.
interior
Is that hall?
center. Did they mean the hallway? The main hallway then?
If they didn't do a lift, they could do, maybe it's a ramp.
But I mean,
I'd have to ask them.
where the students come in, like the, yeah. They count that as the ramp?
Oh, they could.
It's
It's,
carpeted, it's maybe the pitch
this
is,
might not be ADA compliant,
that's what I'm wondering.
bottom,
Is it
yeah,
the-
lower hallway.
I'm looking at 1.11 site ramps, $450,000. Site utilities, those are the exterior.
That was
ramps.
exterior,
Yeah,
okay.
those are the exterior ramps. And again, I'm not saying that they would need to be
Yeah.
fixed up and made good, but I don't know if we're going to need all the ramps. Where if the building is gonna be accessible from the inside, right, to all areas.
Might
With
prefer to see egress.
It's possible.
Yeah, Arthur, one of the things that he did say, was. You really as a board should create your own priorities. He will identify. For you, things like, look at, this is falling apart, you need to do this tomorrow, or this is already missing code. You should do this tomorrow, and it, because it's a big deal. That's why a lot of things are in year one. When he created that first phase for us, it was really around my saying roof, HVAC. We need the HVAC grant because it's gonna, you know, there's a deadline and that money may dry up. And the roof has been there forever, so let's do those two things, and then that's where it kind of, you know, blew up from there. But you, 100% could ask the questions like, why would you leave this in year one, or is this something you could move out? And so maybe that's something you wanna flag and ask, if there's, like, certain things you can probably figure out yourself.
Right.
Others you might wanna go, is there a reason any of these should 100% be in year one? Maybe that's the better way to ask it, so that he could say, here's why this should be in year one.
Yeah, so I wasn't bringing it up for, you know, to have grievances about any of this stuff. I think that the direction I would like to take as a board is to do that, to kind of figure out what we all think should be an immediate priority versus year 2, 3, 6 down the road, with what was given here. Because I think that's a good way to kind of take the extra steps beyond roof, beyond HVAC, beyond sprinklers, into some of this other stuff that may be affordable depending on how money falls for things.
When Rusty was here, he said the priority one items were things he labeled as life safety, like codes in the sprinklers, ADA, air quality, HVAC, traffic pattern security, and hazmat. So that was like his overarching.
I get that, but I go back to science,
Some of it, yeah.
how is that life saving?
So, right, I looked that up and actually asked a special education teacher at my school because I was like, what is this about the science? There is some ADA compliance stuff that has to do with braille and tactile elements, also has to do with the measurement of how high the signs are for people, children, wheelchairs, etc. So that's what it has to do with. So where you decide is important. You know, I guess, but there is a purpose for it. I was also like.
Yeah. I mean, all these things are important.
Yeah.
It's just, we have to classify how they're.
Right.
Yeah, right, in his side too, like, it's tricky, because some things have to be dealt with, just because they're connected, it's not different.
I know, only.
Oh, there you go. You want to say that? Yes, that would be helpful.
If the budget passes, and is the facilities director, could be hired this summer too?
Be July 1.
So if Rusty came back and did a more in-depth presentation, is that what you're thinking? Maybe.
That's up to you, what,
Yeah.
you know. I mean, I think that. You gotta figure out some sort of avenue. And maybe a question for him is, how can we apply to chip away with some of the HVAC grant and maybe not do, is there a way to not do all of it because it's gonna be too much? You'll know that when you get the bond cost payments, but your window is closing, so for that HVAC grant, the amount of time it's gonna take to prepare.
You know what's reimbursable, like is it material that reimbursable, not labor?
It's, for the most part, it's that everything up to 63%.
So maybe we should, if we are going to ask him to come and do that, maybe we should do that once the facility person is on board. And then maybe invite the public to come to that too and record it. So that we could put the recording on the town website.
Yeah, I can get his take on it. Just. I mean, he's been through enough projects and done enough public presentations, like where have you found success? How are you getting people out? What does it look like?
So should we talk to him first before that presentation?
Yeah, I'll
about
call him tomorrow. I can call him tomorrow just to kind of say we talked about it. Here's some of the thoughts. And go from there.
And then kind of at the same time be working with the state to see what we can do to.
Yeah, I agree with Arthur 100% in the standpoint of. If we miss an HVAC window to get some money, even if it's smaller than what is on here. That's just foolish, like why would we miss out? We shouldn't miss out on that.
We should do that.
We should do something. It might not be the full package here, but let's at least apply for something. We do have to do the study, and so maybe we get that going and figure that out, and whether there's a facilitative director or not, it doesn't matter. It might be to a smaller scale, but at least we're addressing something and we're getting 63% reimbursement, whereas. If we don't, we're gonna be paying 100%.
I mean, like my thought process earlier, I was asking about the materials versus the labor, because if you wanna do the roofs. Yes, you could go back and cut into a roof and have it be covered under the roof warranty, but. Depending on what type of system we're getting, if we're getting rooftop units, if we're getting air handlers, you might need structural steel, you're gonna.
Correct.
You're gonna want that done, at least at the same time, you're not gonna be able to do both. Like a summer slammer type of project, because it's just too expensive, but at least if we could get enough to cover. The material, we could always come back and do the labor at a different point in time to set everything.
They won't do that through the grant reimbursement process, so.
They would.
No. It would, and you're right, you could do the roof first and apply and. You do the roof and, hey, we can't do rooftop units because it's not gonna support it, it limits then what you can do for options, right? You can do, they were talking about wall mount exchangers. Yeah, on the outside of the building, well, that's gonna be really ugly on the front, so now you gotta run to the side, like, you can do things. But try and figure that out, it's just part of that process.
We also don't wanna have paralysis via over analysis and trying to.
Agreed.
This, and then we run out of
Right.
time, we're like, oh, I didn't do
Right.
anything, that's we're trying to think,
Right.
about doing it the perfect way, like, it's never gonna be perfect.
Right.
I think I agree with Arthur, we should be trying to do so.
And can that all be done with the kids in the building, sort of?
Depending on what it is.
How involved it is?
There's a neighboring district getting new roofing over the summer, and they were told the, noise and machinery and debris was perhaps going to interrupt their summer program extensively. That's what I
No, we
know.
would run our summer school, we'd ask the library or something for space. Just make your life easier, not having kids on a construction site.
Yeah.
Safety.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a super hefty responsibility here. I think we all already knew that. We're gathering things from these professionals. We've done a little bit of legwork already. Those are facilities director. Our superintendent. There's definitely value in that position, especially when we're trying to make smart decisions, not be stuck, move within a timely fashion. There's a lot of moving parts here. Okay, so where you're going to ask, okay, wait, this is Is it not really budget passing contingent?
No,
That just is one piece of it.
I got a sense now of what you're thinking, and I need to have a conversation with Rusty. And then I can just put the email out to you and just say, look, here's what I found out, here's some of the questions. We can talk to the bond folks and just say, can you run some numbers for us? If it was this amount of money, what are we looking at? And just talk to Rusty about, are there some things on there that you thought? He has to be careful because he put everything in that first column for life safety, because he doesn't want to be in the hook for, you put this in, the second column and something happened, now he doesn't want that, and rightfully so. So I can ask if, like, did you notice something that was, detrimental to the building, or that should be done right away? And we can probably identify that ourselves, but.
We don't wanna be held accountable for that either, if it was in year one, and then we decided it didn't need to be there.
Yeah.
That's, I think, why we're relying on professionals to raise it, but then common sense we will. Okay, so we go from here, you're gonna talk to
Yeah.
Rusty, we're all gonna continue to look at that giant big matrix and think about what we think is necessary.
And if you have questions for him, just shoot me an email and I can forward the questions along. Share them forward.
Actually, before we leave this, is it possible? So would it be possible for them to provide a second matrix? Taking out all the things that would be included in this scope project? In the HVAC, roof, sprinkler system, because I'm noticing that those pieces are in here.
So a second matrix without the phase one.
Yeah, essentially.
So kind of restarting at phase two, maybe?
Kind of, yeah, well, that would pull a lot of money out of those lines, and it would pull a lot of projects out of those line items too, because a lot of those line items are, like I said, there's roof membrane, there was shingles, everything was really itemized. And it might be a little bit easier for us to look at it, let's say all those things were pulled, and we knew what they were going into, so now we have the remaining list of things. That's
Okay.
Can do.
Ooh, okay. Next, we're gonna talk about the policy regarding the new age of attendance. I do believe the policy committee has already been over this and through, so are we voting on it tonight?
Yeah, this is your second read, so if you have any changes, you can just. Which this was just changing the date basically to September, so
This and
if you just wanna make,
attachment number 3. Sorry, new updated policy, yeah, it was just a matter of the month, right?
yeah,
From January to September. And we can't do anything about that, so we just changed our wording to make it compliant. Great. So we need a vote to make that alteration.
So I'll make a motion that the Willington Board of Education, on a recommendation from the policy committee, subcommittee, accept changes to policy 5112A, ages of attendance.
And also B. A and B.
Be on there too, these are my agenda, these are the A and B.
There's a.
Is that a B or is that the continuation of A?
I think it's a B.
Okay, A and B.
Okay. Any discussion or questions? Pretty straightforward. Great, okay, all in favor of making this change in our policy, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone else? Great, welcome to our new policy and kindergarten. Okay, we're definitely not gonna forget item 12, which is present to speak. So if you're still on with us here and you'd like to make a comment, ask a question, or participate, you are more than welcome. How's it looking out there, John?
We have no hands.
Are there any letters Z?
I don't know how. Can you hear me?
Hi, Jill.
yes, we can.
This is Jill Krasinski, 15 Center. Longtime Board of Ed lurker, first time present to speaker. But I just wanted to speak in support of your work with the budget. I was very upset to see that it didn't pass. And I appreciate the discussion tonight, and that you are not going further into your budget with a scalpel to cut out more. I am a little concerned that will you be able to hire a teacher back
if you need them in further years, since it's so hard to get any like additions to our budget at this point. That's my only concern with that. But beyond that, after I saw that the vote failed by 42 votes, I looked in my phone to see how many contacts I had of parents at Center and Hall School, and the number was 42. So I regret not sending a text message to everyone I know saying, go vote, please. But it did make me think of what organizations in our town do have access to contact information, the PTA, the Willington Scholarship Foundation has contact information for people. And if I know there's a limited amount that the board can do to advocate for passing a budget, but I'm a private citizen, so I can do what I want. So just a thought to kind of throw out there. I don't know how much you can comment on that, but something that I would like to do to help, or maybe we could reach out to other organizations just to help move some people to the polls and hopefully get that passed the second time. Thank you for all your efforts. And Phil, yes, I did get your letter. That's why I'm here, but thank you. Thank you very much. And hopefully with your work and some help, we can get it passed the second time.
Thank you so much, Jillian. That was uplifting. Mr. Marshall?
Hi guys, Jim Marshall, Fisher Hill Road. I just want to echo that and say that I support the work you guys did all along the budget process, and the discussions you had tonight about being transparent and trying to accommodate what's reasonable within a very strict and tight budget. Regarding the QA&M study and the CIP work and some of the discussion tonight, you know, I'm not jealous of the task you guys have at hand. You're in an impossible situation, so I appreciate you doing the best you can to struggle through it. I will make two suggestions as somebody who does this a little bit. Before any big decisions are made about any spending in this town, this is really going to be about garnering public advocacy for any projects, whatever it may be. With the results of the QA&M report in hand, I ideally, and I know all of 5 people may come to these, given the history of the town, it would be advantageous to really have a series of public forums, less restrictive than a present to speak at a meeting where you can actually engage somehow. I'm not sure how we do that within the town structure, but you know, community visioning, community outreach, community forums, the more you guys can hit that up and try to rally a level of understanding with the townspeople about what the needs are, both at the existing buildings and how best to approach them, or how they feel they want to see our school system, the buildings support our school system, what improvements they feel that they'd like to see on behalf of the community. The second thing I just want to say, as an architect who does this stuff, I just be very cautious about going line by line and questioning various values for individual projects. There's a lot of complexity and there's a lot of interrelationship between all of these values at this conceptual level. And quite frankly, QA&M provided a level of detail that I think goes above and beyond anything I would have expected at what I know their fee was. Quite frankly, they've done an amazing job. And just be cognizant of the fact that you got them at a discount, not to be an advocate necessarily for them, but just for the field in general. The next level of this, to really get the firm, concrete answers you're looking for, is going to potentially invest a lot more money. And I'd also caution I'd be very hesitant about trying to shotgun projects or partial projects to try to capitalize on spending, when the reality is there's still going to be hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars of taxpayer money spent that then may need to be relooked at down the road. The reality is any project you do, as you try to siphon off things, you know, for year 1 to make it look more attractive, there's still phase 2 and phase 3. And the reality is you might get the motivation for one bond. So phase 2 and phase 3 are likely not going to happen if you start to pick it apart. But I do understand the desire to try to get something moving. I just caution you to be very cautious before spending or advocating to spend taxpayer dollars on shotgun projects that haven't been fully fleshed out for a long-term plan. So thanks very much, guys, and keep fighting the fight.
Thank you for your professional and personal insight. Greg?
Hi, Greg Palm, Coles Road. Thank you guys for this long meeting. I just had a clarifying question on the age requirement that you guys just passed. Does that mean you won't be accepting kids who are seeking the waiver process for the 2024-2025 academic year? Or just looking for clarification on that?
I think you should.
We are continuing with the waiver process.
Okay, so I was just, what's the age requirement? You just said you're adopting what the state is enacting and then we're gonna abide by that, or I was just.
If your student is not 5 years old by September 1st, you can't, where do they find the waiver?
They've already, the waiver process is already gone through, but they can still apply if they didn't already.
You can still apply for the waiver to have your student who is 4, on September 1st of 2024 to attend the kindergarten program, even though it is not in alignment with the state statute. And that is just for this year that the waiver will be offered.
Okay, perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for. I just want to make sure that opportunity wasn't negated by that being passed just now.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
I haven't gone. Willington Day, is Willington Day an opportunity to share the budget or something? Yes.
Well, that's why I was asking about school events.
Yeah.
Mr. Stevens?
Are you asking if I'm gonna spend Memorial Day?
No, but if board members signed up to take.
Is that legal? How do we find?
Yeah, there's no referendum. No
Would other
referendum
people be
plan.
willing to take an hour or so?
So we need to contact Melissa.
Wait, today was Saturday.
Yes.
It's a Saturday.
I coaching. So
We could do it afterwards.
depending on the time, sure, I just need to know the time.
Okay.
But if you would give us the copy and we could share wherever we are, because that would be before the June referendum.
Well, I think we're gonna have more information before then too, so we might. Strategies we need to.
Yeah.
implement.
Okay, does anybody have more comments to share?
Sure.
Oh, wonderful.
Absolutely.
I
always
a few things to share.
No, you don't, I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
Not at all.
I'm not, I didn't interrupt you. You asked.
Good.
So,
Maybe I'll cross some, you can cross some things off my list.
one thing I wanted to bring up that is gets done, but nobody seems to notice, and this is why I asked Phil about what's gonna happen with the 4th grade teacher is, I noticed this, and I'm sure that Paul does the same thing or is something similar, is that we're gonna be down from 3 4th grade teachers to 1 4th grade teacher next year, but we're gonna be up a kindergarten teacher, and I know that this past year, we had a 3rd grade teacher move down to 1st grade. And I'm sure that we'll have a teacher move up to handle that other 4th grade class that's gonna be necessary. And what that highlights is the flexibility of our staff and our schools to not be a district that hires and fires. That we don't need a 3rd kindergarten teacher, we're not gonna get rid of it. We need another 4th grade teacher, well, we don't have to hire someone. We have very flexible and capable staff that can fill those positions without doing any change to the budget. It's something that doesn't seem to get highlighted, especially when I hear things from people about, we have too many teachers in school. That's something I heard, and I thought was absolutely ridiculous. When you look at the actual inner workings of the school, the teachers do a fantastic job being flexible and versatile. I can't imagine going from 3rd grade to 1st grade, how that kind of changes when you got to teach. Now, imagine if one of the kindergarten teachers decides to go to 4th grade, what a culture shock that ends up being, but I'm sure somebody's gonna be willing to do it. And the other thing I wanna say is that I was disappointed in the fact, obviously, that our budget didn't pass, and I highlighted the last time that we were here, is that how we all were able to work together and pass that budget. That's something that I'm proud of, and I'm disappointed that didn't go through, but what I'm more disappointed about is this.
No,
There is nobody here. There was nobody online that spoke during either present to speak against our budget. It's very easy to vote no for something, and it's more difficult to vote no and have a reason why. I would never advocate to somebody how you have to vote. How you want to vote is up to you. But if you don't want to support it, I want to know why, and I want to know your ideas of what we can change to make it go through, or your suggestions of what else can be done, or what can be done differently, or what you think should change. And that wasn't here. That was something I was actually looking forward to tonight, was getting back some input from some people who might have voted no. And there's nobody here. So that's why I support what Jen says, what Brianna says, I'm just putting it back through. There was no back input to say, well, here's what you could get rid of, or here's why I didn't like it, or something along those lines. There's nothing. I think it was a good budget. I think we did a fantastic job. I just want to go through again.
Okay. I taught second grade for a super long time. I moved down to kindergarten. I was quite shocked to learn I had to teach glue stick. Human beings.
yeah, they like.
It's very jarring to switch grade levels, so yeah, it takes us trying to, okay, I'm gonna go fast. Grade East, great job, high five. I'm sure Six Flags is glad to have you, but more importantly, it's awesome that you represented our district in such a large way, and thank you for making us look good here in Willington. Good luck, Falcons, you can win on those ball fields, let's go, got this. Eighth graders, when you go to DC, have a wonderful time learning about our nation. Remember that Willington is inside you, and you're bringing all of us to the nation's capital, so show them what we've got. I can't wait to see the Hall School play on Friday and Saturday if you can, it's so exciting. And good luck to the Hall Memorial School class of 2024. And whatever you choose to do, may you find success. Fourth graders, you're flying on up to HMS, that's so awesome. Have a great time when you visit there, and I hope that you find some new staff to be there for you and guide you along your way. Willington, a great way to show teacher appreciation is to participate in this process. Support our staff, support our students, support our buildings. We're here, we're listening. Come, show up, tell us what you need, ask us questions. That's why we're here. And don't forget, if you want to find a way to pitch in here in town, the PTA is looking for volunteers for their 5K, as well as doing their concession stand at the music fest that's also coming up. So there's so many things to celebrate. There's so many ways to participate, and that is something really special and great about our town. So get involved. We're here. Let's see what we can do to make some positive change. And I hope to see everybody Thursday night at the Board of Finance meeting in one way or another. And
A couple of thoughts. First of all, it's exciting to see all the field trips have come back. I think during COVID, field trips couldn't happen, so it's really exciting to see not only the out-of-school field trips, but also the in-school presentations. So I think that's really exciting. And I want to wish Maddie out well, her new career as a mom. So, and thank you for your service in Willington.
Just have a quick thing that actually just happened hot off the press. I was on a Zoom tonight for the parents of kiddos who are going to Washington DC. And the amount of structure and thought and detail and planning that has gone into this trip is absolutely astounding. Like, they've thought of things that I as a mom wouldn't even have thought about. And the safeguards they put into place to make sure that the kids are making good decisions and being as independent as possible was just outstanding. And I cannot say enough about that whole entire process. It was just great. So, shout out.
All good?
I'm all good.
Okay. Terrific. Okay, so then we are ready for an adjournment motion.
Someone.
Second.
Third.
9:07. Yeah, all of it. Thank you guys very much. That was a lot of heavy things to talk about.